I love to see the towns passing by and to ride these rails neath God's blue sky. Let me travel this land from the mountains to the sea, 'cause that's the life I believe He meant for me. And when I'm gone and at my grave you stand, say God called home your rambling man.
Welcome to Ramblin' Man Podcast, episode number 159. This one's with Nkem Warner, otherwise known as For the Masses, and we talk about art and murals and lettering. I really appreciate Nkem for coming on. We had a really great time. Those two people who gave me 1 and 2 star reviews for, I assume, talking too much about myself. I apologize, but I do talk about myself a lot in this. But Nkem pointed out that it's more of a conversation than it is an interview, so that is okay. So to the haters, be gone. but I appreciate Nkem for coming on. Had a lot of fun. She's a tremendous person, does great work, and you need to follow her online. You can go to her website. It's For the Masses, FORTHAMASSES.com, or follow on Instagram at that same handle, For the Masses. But yeah, check out the great work that she's doing. She's giving hand lettering classes too, if you're here in Knoxville. But yeah, I really appreciate her for being on and look forward to the work she produces here in the future. Sponsor this week is Feral Giant. Feral Giant is a graphic design, illustration, and social media consultation company based here in Knoxville, Tennessee. So they do work for clients big and small all over the country, all over the globe, in fact. But they also do photography, videography, video editing, and audio editing, website design, SEO, writing, content development. Hell, they'll babysit your kids if it nets them money. So make sure you give them a follow on social media on either Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or LinkedIn at Feral Giant. And be sure to give them an email today and hire them for your next project. Without much further ado, here's the episode. Where are you originally from?
I was born in Nigeria, so okay. I am an immigrant to the United States.
Okay.
I didn't move here until I was probably like 8 or 9, and we first moved to Michigan.
Okay.
So like imagine like this immigrant child from Nigeria moving to Michigan. Like this.
What time of year did you move?
It was definitely winter. So we got there when it was cold outside, like snow, all that. So culture shock, environment shock, weather shock, just like all sorts of things.
Which part of Michigan?
I lived in South Haven, so it's like this super like small town close to Kalamazoo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
On the other side.
Yeah.
So the uncle, for the insider before the show,
mm-hmm.
His wife is from Yipsy, and he lives on the eastern side, closer to Detroit.
Okay.
Yeah, and so that's why I was asking. I was like, "Oh God, were you around that?" Because that family,
no.
God love them. I just say that because they pick on me. Damn it, I'm gonna pick back.
No.
Kalamazoo.
This was close to Kalamazoo. So I think like the closest grocery store was like 20-30 minutes. So we were like pretty like kind of not like in heavily populated area or whatnot. And the elementary school I went to was super sweet, super cute. Like it was almost like going to a house, like this like really nice house or whatever. But that community there just like welcomed me and my family with open arms and stuff.
Was the community in that town kind of people who had lived there kind of their whole lives?
Yeah. So these were like locals and just like a new family coming into town. Like I feel like we're all probably like the only African American or Black family that was in that area too. So just culturally coming into the United States, being welcomed with like very Caucasian
Yeah.
people,
Yeah.
and not feeling different, I guess, but also feeling different at the same time. I don't know. It's
Okay.
kind of weird to like describe. Like we weren't part of the culture, but they made us feel welcome and were very inquisitive about our culture
Yeah.
too. So I didn't feel different, but I
Okay.
knew that I was different.
Okay.
Yeah.
What made you all choose that area? Was it work or was it?
Yeah, so
Okay.
my dad moved before the family did. So I don't remember how long he was in the States before we moved to United States, but he was here working, and then we ended up moving to Florida. I feel like
Another culture shock.
yeah,
Good
another
Lord.
culture. Yeah, like don't even get me started on Florida.
Oh my God.
No, like yeah, like very, very stark culture shock moving to Florida. But that move was because my dad was going to school. So he was finishing
Okay.
his degree as a physical therapist and stuff. So he was going to school over there, and
Okay.
that just became our home. And
Brothers and sisters?
yes, I have an older brother, a late brother, and a younger brother as
Okay.
well.
Oh God, all boys.
Yeah,
oh no.
all boys.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I'm the middle child. I'm the
Oh,
only
God.
girl. The pressure, just culturally on women, and
Yeah.
especially like being the middle child too, like middle child issues and stuff like that. So,
But also I feel like you understand my brothers will pick on me, but if anybody
Yes.
ever came near me, they would end them.
yes, my brothers are very defensive of me, and I didn't realize that until I got married.
Yeah.
Like 6 or 7 years ago or whatever. No, excuse me. I've been married for 5 years. Can't remember how long I've been married. Lord.
We'll clip that and we'll trim that down. No, just kidding.
Yeah, so during our cultural wedding, there was an incident where like the cops were called, and my brother got like extremely defensive, like about just the whole way that situation unfolded. I had never seen a side of him like
Cool.
that before. So,
God.
but that's a story for later.
Yeah.
Later on.
We'll get into that later. I'll try. I can't. I have gotten very emotional on this podcast talking about how tired I am, and I'm a big goofy ass white dude. But I took my little sister to see a drag performer at the Bijou, and I had been worried about Proud Boys standing out front, and I was getting very emotional and amped of like, there won't be any left if they try to touch my sister.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I'm getting very, so I can't imagine, but
Yeah.
at the same time, I'm like, was it empathize? I empathize, or I understand of like, oh, I'm with your brother.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
with your
Yeah, especially when it was like a situation that the cops didn't need to be there to begin with, and like the level of police presence there on top of that was just like what
Sweet
set
Lord.
him off, like because they're just the level.
Oh my
We
God.
really didn't need this much police presence here,
No.
but
Oh,
it's
God. Okay, we'll get
yeah,
to
we'll
that
get
later.
you get to that later.
Okay, so you got 3 brothers.
Yes.
One
Yes.
is passed.
Yes, one passed
Okay.
and 2 are still
Okay.
living. Yes.
And was your mom, did she work, or was she kind of
When
taking care of you all?
When we moved here,
Yeah.
yeah, she worked at the church that we went to. So she worked in the children's ministry or whatnot, and this church also had a school, so she became like a preschool teacher and like got her certification. So like ever since we've moved here, she's kind of just like stayed in that education realm. Taking care of kids, either like preschool, but mainly like
Okay.
younger than 5, like 5 and under.
How old did you say you were when you moved over here?
I was 8 or 9. I think
So
8.
growing up, did you see a lot of like American or
And like in Nigeria.
Yeah, and coming over to do ministry or
Well, the main reason we moved here was for my dad's continued education. So we got our visa and stuff, and over time worked our way through the immigration system to become citizens here, which is like, I guess, a topic that I'm sincerely like really passionate about, because my immigrant story is something that I feel like I'm still grappling with on whether the sacrifice to move here was worth it in the end. But outside of that, we definitely left a lot behind, family, culture. But I know in my parents' eyes that the decision to leave was for a better future and better opportunities for not just them, but for us as well. But I'm just not sure if the sacrifices were worth it. Let me just put it that way.
Okay. Have you been back since then?
I have not.
Yeah.
And that's really hard too, because there's sorry, I get like super emotional about this because I feel like I'm still dealing with it.
Yeah.
But I haven't been back, and I feel like there's this sense of identity loss that I'm dealing with of like, where do I associate myself, like as an American, as an African, because when you leave your culture that young, you're still learning about yourself and you're still learning your identity in that space too. And then coming into another space where you're being brought up by parents who understand who they are, like their identity, their culture, but you're not in that like environment anymore. You're like in something different, a space where they're not familiar with. Yeah. So how do you raise your child honoring where they came from, but still like ingraining them within the new society that they're permanently now going to be in? I don't.
Doesn't it also probably has to be? So now you're a mom.
Yes.
So I feel like it's probably got to be hard to be a parent too, because they're just trying to make it and survive and decide if they made the right decision or not.
Right.
That's got to be also really hard. Not saying anything, but it's like there's a lot of things going on.
Yes. There's a lot of layers. There's a lot of layers, and there's a lot of just me trying to understand them and understand the decisions that they made, and also respect that decision as well. But
are both your parents still alive?
Yes, they are still alive. Great. Yes. Thankfully, I just saw them both for Thanksgiving too, so that was really nice. See,
I'm gonna spin this positive.
Yeah.
You have time.
Yes.
And now you have a little kid that you can also talk to all this about.
Yeah.
To the kid. Like I look, it's a good thing. It's a great thing.
Yeah.
It's a great thing.
It is. I think like my struggle is just like the separation of the family, like the distance, the fact that we're all kind of like scattered around. So there has to be a lot of intention to go and visit each other and things like that. And also because you brought up have me being a parent now, I have to figure out, well, what do I want to pass down to him? Because my identity and my culture is still something that's very, very important to me. But how do I stay connected to that culture, pass that culture down to him, but also still ingrain that like African American or that American history within him, so that he's understands like the multi layers of like who he is as a person.
Man, I want to ask a deeper question, but
you can. No, I'm all here for it.
So I'll couch this in. I love Knoxville. Mm-hmm. How do you feel? I know we're spoiling. This is Back to the Future. Our timelines are going everywhere here. But how do you feel here in Knoxville?
Like as a African American living here, I haven't had any experiences of like racism or othering, I guess. Now, one thing that I will say is, as an artist, like, and this is me, like, I don't know if this is my imposter syndrome talking, or whether this is, you know, all the things that my art talks about that I'm still trying to process. Yeah. If this is those fears making me think this way, but sometimes, like, I do feel like if some of the opportunities that I've gotten is because like, oh, we need that diversity higher, you know, like we're trying to make ourselves more inclusive, and like, hey, here's this up and coming artist, like let's give them an opportunity. Like by all means, I don't feel that I'm not deserving of the opportunities, but sometimes like when you're still trying to process your self-worth and your identity as an artist, you do kind of like question like, why me? You know, I could, even though I like I said, I feel deserving, but still it's like, why me and not this other artist, or why now, or whatever. But
I tell you what, you can listen to this, you with Josh Shore, if you want to hear me yell about the Knoxville art scene. Like it's a very weird. I think we're in a very weird place, and I think it's very siloed. In that, like, hell, I don't. What you'll learn about me is I don't care. The Maker City is one silo. Dogwood Arts is one silo. Arts and Culture Lines are one silo. I would love for all of them to work together. They don't
like one umbrella,
or just work, just community. Just realize they're a part of a bigger community, and I don't see that happening because I think there are egos involved. So it frustrates the hell out of me. It's like, hey, it's not about you, dumbass. It's about the artists and the people who would like to see more art. Stop putting yourself of being like, I have to be the one, as silly as it sounds. I have to be the one on the Instagram. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. It's about encouraging artists, and it's about trying to get people to understand art more. So I say all that to say, I think there are a lot more opportunities now. I think there are totally a lot more opportunities now. And you are very talented, because I did look through your artwork. So you are getting those, I think, on your own. Yeah.
And again, I do feel like that is true.
Yeah.
But after, talking to some artists, some like African-American artists, and asking if they feel that Knoxville has been a place of opportunity for them. Like it's been like, yes and no.
I think part of it'll also, I think this is true everywhere. Curious if you feel this way. One of the biggest issues is wealth inequality. Like I've been yelling about it for years because I went to Fulton, which is and it was even worse when I went there. Like it was pretty bad when I went there, and the poverty and everything. And Farragut is a very rich school. So if you look through the art scene, you see a lot of people getting opportunities at Farragut. It's because their dad is so-and-so, and they work at Old Boy Network.
Right.
That's what we call it.
Donor money.
Yeah, donor money. Yeah. So you are seeing a lot of that. So I think there are a lot of artists that are getting excluded from the area that they just don't have the right connections.
Right.
That's why I love Esther, because Esther is like, I'm just going to keep plowing through and working hard and showing my work, and I'm going to work my butt off to earn every opportunity I get, because she doesn't fit in the mold of kind of any of those brackets. And so,
well, I do like, I feel like her work is definitely like distinctive to her, like her style and her illustrations. Like when I see her work, I definitely know that it's Esther's work. But I think that right now, like the art scene definitely feels like the same people or the same group of people are getting like the opportunities, and there's not like, so it makes you think like, are these the only artists that are out there? But not to diminish or point blame at artists, like I wonder how many artists are like applying for these opportunities and feeling like they're just getting shut down, or like or assuming that they don't match what some of these organizations are looking for. So
you have in Market Square, you have the one alleyway that's all the different artists, and then you have the other alleyway that's that one big piece. So I had that guy on. And he said,
one big piece guy. I'm sorry. I just have to say that I absolutely freaking hate the location of that. Like, good God. Like,
I think he talked about that on here. He was like,
why?
You can't see the whole thing.
You cannot see, like.
So he talked about, he said, to your point, because you hit the nail on the head, they had tried to section that out, and not enough people, or no one applied. He applied to do the whole thing, and he got it. And it was like, he was like, that's why I got it. I didn't get it because my idea shone bright over all.
Wow.
It was because nobody applied.
Wow.
But I will say that was like 5 years ago, I think 6 years ago. It's weird with the pandemic because it's like, oh yeah, there's like a 3-year chunk
where
like,
nothing happens.
It's just like fast forward. But he was like, yeah, that's how I got it. No one else applied.
That's interesting to know.
That's messed up.
Yeah, that is.
Also, I wish they could do something about the smell of rotting garbage in both of those. Because anytime I walk through, I'm like,
hey, it's distinct. Like,
I was like, I think this art, the ambiance around this art really makes me
It
feel
does.
like I want to vomit because it's gross. It's like, oh,
That's why it's called Strong Alley, because the will to walk down it needs to be
it's got
strong.
a strong smell.
Yeah, it's not a strong smell.
But yeah, I think it is a little bit people applying, but I also, this one I cannot say because it will be liable. I'll tell you after the podcast.
Okay.
I hate when people do that on podcasts. I'll tell you after. We'll make a little note. I've already made one note. I have an idea for you.
Okay.
How can I write this down? There we go. I think the other problem with the silo thing is it can get a little gatekeepy too. Like, I think Dogwood Arts is pretty open, like in accepting people. Chalk walk.
Chalk walk.
Like, I see a variety of people doing that. I would love for more kids to get involved, like getting like Fulton High School's art program to be able to do a mural or be able to do.
Oh, that would be great.
I would love to see kids be able to see their artwork up.
I think that there's more opportunities for that coming up. But just to ask you a question about the silos, like the different organizations, Maker City, Dogwood, and Culture Alliance. Like, do you feel like there's competition going on between the organizations or do you feel like there's not enough like, hey, let us collectively come together and like run an event so that one person is in like one event isn't competing with another?
I think there's a little bit of snobbery and a little bit of ego.
Okay.
And I think I don't care if this is happening, like from individual. So I used to be president of AIGA here in Knoxville.
Oh, nice.
I was communications chair for 2 years, then president for 4 years. We did a lot of things. And I tried to open it up to more than graphic designers, but I can't tell you how many times me as president of AIGA and also somebody who's lived here my whole life and try to know people. Like I can talk to a wall. So I just try to know people. And I'm always like, hey, we're going to do this thing and it'll be fun. It doesn't cost you anything. If you want to come, awesome. And how many times I got shut down or ignored or pushed back. And I was just like, I'd rather you just ignore me than to push back and be shitty to me. Because it was like, why are we
doing this?
Why are you feeling the need to correct me? Cool. I was just trying to do a good thing. We ran an event every year, Budding Creativity, where we collected art from all the schools, elementary, middle, and high school. We would put it up in a gallery. And then we'd get professional artists donate artwork, and we would raise money, and all that money went to one school's art program here in town. Nice. We raised $8,000 to $9,000 in the time we did it. We bought a lot of equipment. Awesome. But even that, I kept getting pushback from people in town. I was like, what are we talking about? Like, I'm asking you to donate a piece of art that you don't care about, want, need, so that it can go and help kids, and you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. I was like,
interesting.
Do you know how much I want to yell at you?
Rightfully so.
Yeah, because it's like, and that's not I'm better than, but I think a lot of times I tried to preach like we should just do this because it's the right thing to do. And I got a lot of pushback. And in what you're talking about, I see a lot of, but why would you want to do that? You should want to come to mine. I will defend Dogwood Arts. Dogwood Arts is the only one that I'm like, I think they actually try to work with people and care.
I feel I'm biased towards Dogwood Arts. I will say that because they've definitely been a great organization with opportunities. And I will say just pointing out about that mural project earlier, that alley. I like how just based on the artist's feedback about people not applying, and I know this was like 5 years ago. I like that Dogwood Arts had that mural workshop where they brought Megan Lingerfield in, and I and 5 other artists were a part of like being able to get the ropes of like, okay, this is how you do a mural, like this is what you need and the materials and blah blah blah. And like a lot of us have been able to go forward since then and start doing mural projects and like applying to call for artists and stuff like that. So I think if there's more opportunities either within all three of those organizations for intermediate or beginner artists who don't have the resources. Like, they want to do certain things, but they feel like they don't have the capability to do it. Like, hey, here's this workshop like thing where we'll give you all the resources. This is free because some of these organizations are nonprofit. And maybe that will shorten that gap between like, oh, these are the artists who are always getting opportunities, but now you've just like opened the door for like all these up and coming emerging artists to go forth and seek opportunities and not just seeing the same artists over and over again.
Well, I will say part of the reason why I had his name is Addison. The reason why I had him on, because I had the opportunity, because my dad is also just like me, and he's retired, and all he does is go to yard sales and thrift store, and he goes to brown bag lunch. He does everything. He's just top to bottom. His day is full.
Okay.
But he met that dude. That dude took a photo of him to potentially use for the mural.
Okay.
Like, all the people are people, Knoxville.
Right.
And that guy was intrigued because my dad started talking about me, and that guy was intrigued, so he texted me to come meet him to take my photo. And I was like, how funny it would be if he uses yours over or mine over yours, Dad, that you sank yourself. You could have been up on that. But
is he on the wall, by the way? Okay.
Neither one of us made the wall.
Okay.
Probably too much beer. We had too much blank
curl.
area. Yeah. But I met him because I had the opportunity, but part of me was like, so what would it take to do a mural? Like, because there were a couple people that were asking me. I was like, oh no, it terrifies me because it's so perfect. I'm curious if you have this as an artist where you can tell other people to do stuff like, hey, you should do this. But then when it comes to you, it's like, no, because there's somebody I know that she was wanting to get into murals. I was like, you have this giant wall in your living room.
Yeah, go paint
a mural.
Yeah.
I was like, I want to do it in my bedroom in here because it's this giant wall.
Yeah.
I was like, but it also scares the shit out of me.
It's just paint, though.
I know.
Like, I think
that's the artist brain.
Yeah,
too.
no, but realistically though, it really is just paint. Like, and that's one of the things that the workshop helped me like get over that fear. Like, bro, it's just paint. Like, if you mess up, just paint over it. Like, and then just like seeing someone like as professional as Megan, like owning up, like, yeah, I make mistakes all the time, and not seeing it like, oh, everything she does is like perfect. It's like, no, if we're all capable of making mistakes. Like, you just need to learn how to cover it up or paint over it. I can always just paint over it.
Okay. Good Lord. I took us on a real wild side track. Hot takes. So I run an illustrators group that we meet once a month. And one of the members, Jimmy, who has been on the podcast, Jimmy is like, you are the king of the spicy takes. I was like,
hot takes.
I earned that. Totally. And even one of the other people, I made mention of something, and she said, "Man, you have beef with everybody." I was like, "No, I don't."
Did I choose the right podcast to come on?
So no, it's one of those things. It's like, no, I just want everybody to do the right thing. I'm tired of people wanting to push up other people's side so they can get money and be crappy people. I was like, I just want us to all, not to be hippy dippy, but I just want us to all, we're rising tide lifts all ships.
Yes.
We're all in together.
Yes, absolutely.
There's enough bad shit in this world. We need to actually care about one.
No, it's like you're going to get me on a tangent with that because like I don't know what your audience is like, but I'm going to get a sense of this. But like, to me, Donald Trump becoming president made me feel like anything is possible. So the idea of like doubting myself or like, oh, you can't, like, was Donald Trump, did a criminal become the president of the United States?
I can't find it. If I can find it, I'll send it to you.
Okay.
But there was some meme that popped up that I posted that I reshared that was just like, essentially, the person who's not good still has the confidence to do the thing, so you should still do the damn thing. Oh yeah.
It's like, do you know how many shitty people are like successful in life? And like, are you trying to kill people? Like, no. If you're not trying to like kill people, then just do your idea.
Or hurt other people for just existing.
Yes.
So I'm gonna point to this. So this is my favorite podcast. It's called Never Not Funny. It's got this comedian, Jimmy Pardo. And I have to mention this because it's hilarious. Hilariously stupid.
Okay.
I love stupid. Him and his other co-hosts, Matt and Elliot and Garen, when they would get new guests in, they were like, now we need to let you know, we all think Trump's going to make America great again.
Okay.
We think Ted Nugent is an awful guitar player, but we love his politics. And they just ran through this laundry list of things, and you would see people going, what did I just get in?
Right.
So I almost just pulled a Jimmy Pardo and went, listen, he's going to do good when he comes back in 2024.
It's going to be great again.
It's going to be greater again.
There you go.
Like Die Hard 2 is Die Harder. Yeah,
yes,
it's going to be greater again.
Yeah.
No, don't get me started on that one. Holy hell.
Yeah, but it really is that, like, if your ideas aren't to harm people, you're not hateful in any way, shape, or form, you want to like spread positivity in some way, like just go do that thing. Yeah. And like there's too many people with bad ideas who are overconfident and they get access to things. So like, why not you? You know?
I do not mean for this to sound like the me patting myself on the back podcast.
But you pat yourself.
Yeah, I'm pointing at Fulton. So I go back and talk to the kids at Fulton. Like I used to once a year, and then COVID happened. And I would tell those kids, I was like, just go to Market Square. It was kids who were in Western Heights or any of the projects around here. I was like, have you been downtown? They're like, no. I was like, just go. I know that seems hard. That seems scary. That seems whatever.
Yeah.
I was like, but if you've got a brother, a sister who has a car, just go and walk around. You're going to be okay. It will give you an experience. I was like, and that's just downtown Knoxville.
Yeah, that's like right there.
But I was trying to talk to the kids. I was like, you don't have to stay in the same pattern you're in. I was like, there's so much free stuff to just go and enjoy. I was like, same thing. Go into Arts and Culture Alliance. Go into the KMA. You're a student. You can go in for, I think anybody can go in for free.
Really? I didn't know that. Okay.
I was like, just go in and walk around. If nothing else, you're killing time.
Yeah.
You're like going in the afternoon. I was like, don't feel like you just have to stay home. I wasn't even fussing at him about video games or anything like that. I was just like, the best thing you can do is go experience stuff.
Yeah, 100%. And
it was just like, just go do it. And you could see some of the kids like, but I'm scared. I was like, hell, if it wasn't 2023, saying that, if it wasn't that and it'd be weird for a giant dude to just be picking you up, I'd take you down there. I was like, I swear to God, I'm safe. Like, I know that's what everybody says. But I was like, hell, I'll take you down there. I'll talk to you about it. I don't care. I think that'd be great. I would love to talk to kids about that stuff. Like, yeah, let's go.
Because you bring up Fulton, do you feel like since you haven't been going there regularly and stuff, do you think through the available organizations there that just like kids in low-income neighborhoods have access to the arts as kids who go to Farragut and stuff like that?
They have classes there, but that's another
layer.
Like wealth inequality, and then you get into the education system of like just trying to churn these kids out. I was like, they don't get opportunities. They may feel like, hey, I can't take art because I got to take these other classes to just try and make it to college.
Right.
It's like the education system is so broken. I'm going to quote somebody who is awful now, but I swear there was a point where he was actually a good interviewer, and that is Joe Rogan. Like he was terrible now.
Yeah.
I've not listened to him in, I think, 4 years. And I used to be a pretty regular listener because I was like...
Before he went off the deep end? Okay.
Because he would be like, I want to learn about astrophysics, so I'm going to have Neil deGrasse Tyson in. Like, I love that aspect of, I don't know about this, so I'm going to have
let me get
person.
the smartest guy that I know.
So he had Andrew Yang in, another went off the deep end person. But they were talking about UBI, about universal basic income. And he said, Joe Rogan actually made a great point. He was like, the person right now who could be the greatest potter ever in this generation may not know it because they may be some poor kid in the Bronx that does not have that opportunity. But if you let that kid learn through having something like UBI to where they don't have to sweat, roof over their head, food, like...
Where like basic necessities are taken care of.
They could be the next Michelangelo, and we'll never know it.
Yeah.
We'll never get to experience that because they're just struggling to make ends meet. So that's what I think about a lot when I think about the kids at Fulton. I was like, there are some kids up there that could be great, I don't know, singers, dancers, whatever, like anything, artists,
Right.
like that we may never know about it because they just don't get that opportunity. It sucks.
Yeah,
like
it does.
It really sucks that. Yeah, that goes to Don't
That
give
goes
me
to like everything though. Like it's like access to wealth means access to like, I don't want to say a worry-free life because I'm sure rich people have other problems that they think about, but like when you're not worried about survival,
Yeah.
you definitely release a lot of bandwidth to like play and do things and figure out what you want to do with your life.
And also we've swung in this other direction of like pushing college so much that it's like, I wish, because when I was up there was a vocational department.
Mm-hmm.
There was printing, there was auto mechanics, there was
carpentry
and upholstery.
Yeah.
I think they actually have a firefighter department system up there now. I think they have HVAC now. And I'm like, thank God. Do plumbing too. As I can tell the kids, you don't have to go to college.
Right.
You can do this job that may be a tougher job, getting under people's houses for plumbing.
It is.
But it's also, you can make decent money. And at the end of the day, you get to enjoy your life.
Honestly, like in this generation now, like vocational work is actually very like well paying. Like you can make at least like $130,000 being a plumber. And because I hate the fact that vocational work is kind of like looked down upon in society, because I'm like, you need a plumber though.
Yeah.
You need someone to build your house. Like you need a mechanic to fix your car. So why do we look down on people who take those jobs when they're like literal needs for society to continue to keep moving? But tech jobs and like more lucrative, like doctors, lawyers, like yes, those are important, but the level of importance is really the same. It's just like one is a more laborious, like physically demanding job, and others is like, oh, I use my hands, or like it's more specialized, I guess. I really wonder why.
So here's another one. I'm going to throw out another problematic name. Mike Rowe, who did the show Dirty Jobs. Did you ever see that?
I
He's
didn't.
another one that's gone
off the deep end.
Yes. God, I can't. I'm getting frustrated because it's like, also stop poking at poor people to fight other people when it's actually the rich people who are the problem. Like anyway, good Lord. But he started like 20 years ago, and I still have this saved on my favorites on YouTube. He went before the House to try and get the government to fund a national PR campaign to encourage kids to go and do vocation. And he told a story about how he had an apartment in New York, and what it cost to pay the plumber was almost as much as what his rent was for 1 month.
Oh, wow.
And that's for New York. Now, this was 20 years ago, so it wasn't as crazy now, but it was still not cheap.
Pretty high.
And he was just like, what are we doing to these kids? Like, college shouldn't have to be the end of the line for every one of these kids. We should start teaching kids about vocational jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And it's weird watching him go back and talk to the House over the years. First time he wore a suit and tie, dressed to the nines. And I saw the last time he was there, he looked like he was in a silk shirt that was unbuttoned. I was like, he was probably wearing blue jeans. And he was just like, I'm tired of keep coming in here and pitching this. And me, I'm just sitting there. The first time I watched him, I was like, yes, why are we not doing this? Hey, guess what? We pay. Everybody bitches about taxes. We're paying taxes. Can I make my tax dollars go to that instead of war?
Right. Can I specify?
Yeah.
Like,
I don't want to fund us building more tanks and them going to.
Yeah.
I'm going down rabbit hole. And being in a sand dune in Arizona.
Right.
I want to fund this. Like, this makes sense to me. So we've gone. No, not we. But we as a country, it's like there's a lot of things I'm like, hey, this doesn't make sense anymore. Can we just stop?
Let's reel this back.
Can we just stop?
Yeah.
Just stop?
Yeah.
Watch this. So your mom was a teacher. I love doing that. What do your two brothers do?
My older brother, he's like he just finished up school and is looking for a job within his field. I forgot what he gosh, you just told me. I'm like terrible at that. But my younger brother, he's in med school now.
Oh,
He just started
okay.
med school in Chicago. So
Is he freaking out or is he like into it?
he's like a little bit like just feeling out. He had an exam, which I hope he gets the results back. So like after this test, we'll see where his mindset's at after this one.
Okay.
But so far he's doing all right. Yeah.
Okay. That's good. Chicago. That's
He's
a trip.
cold. Yeah, from Florida to Chicago.
Oh, God.
Like
He's like,
not
man, I got
prepared.
out of Michigan. And I'm right back in. It's even colder.
Oh,
here."
see, he wasn't born there, and so
okay.
so this is like his first. He's like a strict Florida boy.
Oh,
Like, he does not know what this like
I just
snow life is.
we had a kid move up from Miami. I think it was like my sophomore year,
Mm-hmm.
and it was like September. And he rolled in the locker room in a big puffer jacket because it had gotten to like 65 at night. And we were all like in shorts, like we're finally just barely sweating.
Okay.
And you're just like, he was like, no, it's freezing out there. It's like, God love you in like February. You're going to die. You're going to die. Like, I hope your house has a very nice fireplace that you can huddle next to.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Like he was like decked in like winter, like full on
Full-on
winter
gear. With like the
parkas, like the hat.
Yeah. I'm glad you got that. Yeah. Whereas like us, like February, we were out building the baseball field, like out there in like 3-degree
Shorts.
weather. Like, all right, once you get done taking laps and 2 hours of baseball practice, you all got to build the dugout over here. For like, oh, good, sweet Lord. Okay.
Gosh.
Child labor.
Isn't that what the education system?
Yeah. This is teaching character. So every time I go by that baseball field, I was like, huh, we built the dugouts there.
Wait, did they
this.
really have y'all building
yeah.
that? Oh my gosh.
Yeah. We fixed the backstop. Like, oh yeah, we did all
Was this
that.
like part of like class?
No, this is the baseball team.
The
had to do
baseball
it.
team.
Yeah. In February, when that dirt was just like hard as rock, man. It was nuts. I hate to sound like old man on the lawn, but high school, when I was in high school, was a totally different thing.
Wait, like what year was
I
we talking?
graduated in 96.
96. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, like, my freshman math teacher, algebra, Mr. Baldwin, was a former linebacker for the Chicago Bears.
Mm-hmm.
And he was also a bodyguard for Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He was a large man. And he threw a piece of chalk into my mouth because I fell asleep in class.
Chucked it.
Yeah, he chucked it, and he hated freshmen. He fussed at me for not being able to do enough push-ups because I played football. He's like, you should be able to do 100 push-ups every day. And I made it to like 55 or something like that, and I had to stop because I hurt. And he was just like, nah, you should do 100. He was going to give me like a B in class or a C.
For not doing 100.
And I wouldn't have to do any work the rest of the semester. Or the rest
If you
of the
did
year.
100 push-ups.
If I did 100% push-ups right then, and I made it to like 50 something, I was like, I can't do this anymore.
Well, I'm glad he didn't just like give you a grade. You had to earn it.
So, yeah, that's what I say. High school was very weird when I was up there. Like, it was wild. It was rough. We also, there were, since you mentioned Florida, Miami drug gangs came up and were prevalent in Knoxville in the 90s. To the point to where we had a drug dealer that just walked through the school that was like a 25 to 28-year-old dude. And 3 of my close friends who I grew up with were his dealers in the school. And I didn't think this was real. And then I was on the Business Advisory Council for the city, and the police, there's a group that's in between citizens and police that they like talk in between. And the guy he's like, oh yeah, when the Miami drug cartels came up here in the 90s, I was like, hold on, stop talking. That was real? And he was like, yeah. And he's like, why? And I was like, I went to Fulton. He's like, oh. And I was like, what's happening? It freaked me the hell out. I was like, so it did really happen. He's like, oh yeah, it was really bad. And I was like, okay. I remember a guy, a friend of mine that I played football with, he was staying at his sister's house after he graduated. Mm-hmm. And her boyfriend was a major drug dealer. And they raided the apartment and found an insane amount of cocaine, like in the stereo speakers. I remember that aspect because that was like, hit him in the speakers. And he's like, yeah, there was plenty of room in there.
Yeah.
And that guy, my friend, ended up doing like 10, 12 years in prison.
Is
and
he
didn't
out?
do anything. He was just there.
Is he out?
He is at this point.
Okay. Well, that's
There's another
good.
guy I grew up with that he committed third-degree murder, and I saw him on Facebook suggesting that I add him. I was like, I think I'm good. God love him. God love him.
Well,
Good.
yeah, because that's not he didn't get away with it, so that's not a
No,
good connection
he did his
to have.
the third-degree murder. He did his prison time and got out, and I was like, looks like he has a kid. Good for him.
Oh,
Good for him.
and I hope the prison system
Yes.
rehabilitated him to
So here's
re-enter society.
Here's another terrifying fact. When we had our 20-year high school reunion, 3/4 of our graduating class were dead, in jail, or had done prison time.
Wow.
That's why I go
really
talk to those kids,
sad.
because I'm like, hey, I made it, and I'm very lucky that I made it out of here.
See, but aren't you part of the white guy?
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Oh, that's the funniest
no,
part.
no,
As I go up there and I'm just like, I get what I'm looking like.
yeah.
But I also went here.
Yeah,
so I've had
yeah.
a gun in my face a lot of times.
It's like I've been through the same
Yeah.
struggles within the school system as you
well,
did.
that's the weird thing I hate even bringing up. Although I have brought it up a lot on here, and I'm sure I'll get some emails for this. I am a dude who grew up on the east side of town where I would be usually the only white guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I also, I consider myself very fortunate for growing up in that environment, because it taught me what it was like to be different.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also, where my grandparents lived right over here in Washington Pike, the family behind them was Catholic. The couple across the street were in the concentration camps.
Oh, okay.
So they had the tattoos on their arms, and I had to learn what that meant when I was like 3 or 4 or 5 years old.
Okay.
And I just grew up around of a lot of stuff that wasn't just boring ass white shit.
Yeah.
To where I had to learn. And I think it was everybody in my family was very open and willing, and, just like my grandfather grew up in pretty rough. And he went off and fought in World War II. That's his stuff right there.
Okay.
He saw some really hairy shit in Japan, and God knows what he did. Never got to learn. Don't want to know.
Mm.
But when he came back, he was like, I need to get my life in order and straightened up. But he was like, I don't have any problem with anybody. I don't give a
Gotcha.
shit.
I was going to ask you
Unless
that.
anybody messes with me.
Right.
Now, I've got plenty of stories.
The
of,
tribe.
yeah, somebody trying to mess with the boys, and him being like almost breaking a house.
Yeah.
Like he hit a house one time and went over and knocked on a door, and my dad said the entire front of the house shook.
Wow.
Because he was also 6'2", big dude.
So just
worked
like
on the
giants
railroad.
in your
Yeah,
family,
yeah.
basically.
Yeah, the runt is 6'1".
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
So I guess let me ask, what were the reasons why you grew up on the east side and went to Fulton and were in that environment? Was it due to economic reasons or whatnot?
Oh, yeah, my mom worked for the phone company, and my dad was a truck driver.
Okay.
We grew up poor.
Okay.
But because they had jobs, we weren't the poorest people.
Right. I
We
get
also
you.
weren't the richest kids. If I was somewhere in that middle grade.
Mm-hmm.
And the east side, it was just kind of where we lived. And I played ball at Alice-Bell Ballpark out here, and they didn't have enough kids at that age, so we would go play at Eastside Y. It's got another name. And it's weird because I've been back in there. I was like, this gym looked a lot bigger when I was a kid. It looked massive when I was a kid. Or Cal Johnson is another one. And it was same thing. It would be me and maybe one or two other white guys on the team, and that would be it. We would be the only white people in there. Never felt uncomfortable. Never had anybody. Nobody's ever called me a cracker or a honky. I've never experienced any of that. Worst thing I ever got called was big country. There was a basketball.
And that might have been a compliment too.
Well, there was a basketball player in the 90s from where I can't remember where he's from, but he was called Big Country because he's just a big goofy white dude.
Okay.
And they actually came here and played in some NCAA tournament, and I was beating somebody in basketball. I was manhandling them because I was
manhandling
bigger.
them.
I was just bigger, and people in the crowd were going, "Are you letting that big country looking mother?" And I was just like, "Yeah, how am I winning here, man? Come on, get your act right, man."
Right.
So it was. I ain't talking about that. I talk about it too much on here, but I consider myself very lucky that I grew up that way. That I did not grow up any different way because I think it has formed
your opinion, like your viewpoint of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lord, this is not about me. I'm gonna cut all this out. It's not about
No.
But it's just I think I defend Knoxville also a lot because that was my experience. I did not grow up in God love Farragut. I know they're getting tagged pretty hard in this, but it's okay. But I didn't grow up over there. And I didn't my dad was very much there's Knoxville and there's West Knoxville. Two different cities.
Wow.
Yeah.
I feel like as an outsider, like someone who didn't grow up here, I'm still learning the like ins and out of the Knoxville culture. But one thing I will say that it's interesting that meeting other people who aren't from here hold the same sentiment as I do. And that's like making friends when you're not from Knoxville with people who grew up here is like trying to get into the toughest like group. Like it's people are not that they're not welcoming, they're very nice, but like becoming friends is just like really, really hard.
Well, it's weird because I'm also in all this interim time, I'm used to being the only person sitting at a table who's from here. I can't tell you how many places I've been where it's like, wait, where are you from? And having people say, excuse me, well, I've lived here 20 years, so I'm from here. I was like, no, you're not. You didn't go through the lean years when it was downtown was a wasteland. Like I had somebody who moved here in like 07 go, I've seen a lot of change. I was like,
you have not
you have no idea what
Yeah.
change is. Like change is we would go to like the Christmas parade and the minute it was over, everybody
it was dead.
It was gone. Nobody was downtown.
Wow.
Or going to, when I was way too young, I would go to a place on Market Square called the Mercury Theater, and where Pres Pub is, and see punk bands or any kind of bands. When I was 13 or 14, shouldn't have been able to get in there, and how rough it was.
The scruffy city.
Yeah. Like Crutch Park back then, it was wall to wall, front to back. Homeless people. I don't know how to say heroin. Heroin was a big thing. So it was a lot of heroin addicts out there, and being like, it was me and 3 other girls from my art class. So having to be there, also their protector. I was like, hey, let's go. We're moving forward. This is having people approach us, having people is just like,
and I haven't seen that. Like I moved here in 2015.
I was going to say, this is 93, 94. This was.
Yeah. So I'm like, I've seen a lot of change within, the past 8 years that I've been here, but I can only, and it's been like, what is happening right now? So I can only imagine like the stark change from when you like growing up here. So now it's like, where do I live?
The most recent change is just weird. It just feels like it's rich people moving in here and kind of trying to take over.
Yeah.
Like this is growing up here especially, this is what I would consider very working class.
Like this area?
This area.
Okay.
Maybe not these 2 roads over here, Fairmont and Emerald. Those are bigger, nicer, more expensive houses. But driving around here and seeing Teslas and BMWs.
That's weird.
It's very weird.
Okay.
To where, who was it? There was somebody who used to live over here that moved away and has been gone like 4 or 5 years. And I was like, they're like BMWs in our neighborhood. And she was just like, I don't understand that. Like, that is very odd. Brand new BMWs in this neighborhood, that does not compute.
Jeez.
Yeah.
And that kind of permeates that like separation of class that we were kind of like talking about earlier and stuff. Because if these areas that from your description was like a working class area and then now is like being infiltrated by richer people, like where are these people being displaced to?
Well, it's the whole thing. Do you know about like the Civic Coliseum, Civic Auditorium thing?
No, I don't.
That was a black area that they displaced everybody to build that in the late 60s, early 70s, somewhere in there. And that will pop up like every 4 or 5 years. Somebody will be like, hey, this was kind of messed up that we did this. And I think recently it's came up again. It's like, what happened to all those families that were there?
That were living there?
Yeah, can we find the descendants of those families and figure out, almost like, are they okay?
Yeah.
Like what happened to those families?
I don't want to like bring up obviously the displacement that's going on right now in regions of the world. It's like, is it kind of like a norm where the higher powers, the rich, are okay with displacing people if it serves their bigger interest at the end of the day?
I think everybody just wants money. I think a lot of the rich just want money and power.
Yeah.
That's what we see in politics right now. It's just money and power. They don't actually care about governing. They just want money and power. It's such a depressing, and I'm going to try and spin it positive.
Yes.
The only thing I kind of fuss, so here God bless it. I got to stop talking about myself on this damn podcast. Or I got to start having a separate conversation with you beforehand. But it's like my dad, truck driver, heard about him, got involved in politics when I was in the 6th or 7th grade, because there was land beside us that somebody was wanting to build 2,000 apartments on like 11, 12, 13 acres.
Okay.
And they were going to have no way to exit to where it was going to be safe for anybody.
Okay.
And he had just moved there, and we had just moved there. And so he fought it. He got involved with his neighborhood organization and went and fought it, and was like, these are developers just trying to get a lot of money, and they're going to screw up where we're living, because there's going to be accidents, there's going to be wrecks. They don't care about any of that.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, they're just going to build this, and it's going to be very bad. And so he fought it, and because of that, he's been involved with politics ever since then. Him showing up in his shorts and his work boots with grease all over his legs, in a shirt that's like he's been doing this all day.
Yeah, the working man.
Yeah, and his pocket T-shirts stuffed with pens and notepads, and he would have me write his speeches for him because I was in English when I was like in the 5th. So I got very heavily involved with politics on a local level because of him.
Awesome.
So here's where I'm going to, this is the positive. People have to show up. People have to get involved.
Yeah.
Like there was just an event at the Standard downtown that the city put on to talk about the McClung warehouses, where they're going to develop that.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to it. I was like, this is showing up. This is a free event. It's after work hours. Although, my side note, I also think the day of voting should be a holiday.
Yes, agreed.
It's like
100%.
this is the dumbest thing in the world that we haven't figured this out.
Again, no.
Yeah.
It's not that it's intentional. Let's be clear.
Yeah.
We don't
this is the dumbest thing that we haven't figured this out at this point. But I showed up to that thing, and there were people I talked to later, and they're like, why'd you go to that? I was like, because I want my voice heard. Like, I don't care if it doesn't matter. By God, I'm going to be there. And you ripped off like little circle stickers, and you put them on what you thought it should be, and you wrote on Post-it note.
How many people do you think? How many people?
When I was there was like 200 people there.
Oh, that's good.
And I was actually there early. It went from like 4 to 8, and I was there at like 3:50.
Okay, so on your point of people showing up, I think like that would have been something that I would have showed up had I known that was happening.
That's
okay. Yeah,
that's the only problem is getting.
It's like awareness.
And I work in marketing now. It's so hard to communicate crap now because everything. It's
how it should be easier than ever, though.
I
We're
know,
in the digital age.
It's the algorithm. I'm fussing about the algorithm because I can't tell you how many times I'll see an event 3 days after it happened because of the stupid algorithm. And that's why I try and share as much as humanly possible. Like I shared about that event a lot. To be like,
okay,
hey, people need to show up to this. This is important. They may do whatever they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
But by God, I'm going to be here and I'm going to voice my opinion. And Alan Sims of Inside of Knoxville, have you gotten featured on his website?
I haven't, but I follow him on Twitter. X. I'll call it's Twitter. Okay.
So he and I talked. He quoted me in the article he wrote. I was like, "This should not be housing unless it's going to be affordable housing."
Yes,
because we don't need more $3,000 studio apartments down here. I was like, I would like to see more. Kids are a big thing for me. I was like, I would love to see some more free community spaces for kids. If it's a theater, if it's art, whatever it has to be.
Mm-hmm.
If the city is actually going to be serious about this, that's what it should be.
There's like this like apartments that are being built like by the campus or whatever. They're supposed to be like student apartments, and I made a comment about it, like, oh, like who's supposed to afford living here? Well, who are they building these for?
The ones that got built at the old Supreme Court location, I swear to God, there's a studio that's like $3,000.
What in the world?
And I was like, who? Like, I've gotten into this argument with people that are like, there's a housing shortage. I was like, no,
there is
not.
No.
There's an affordable housing shortage.
And I heard, and I found out recently, I didn't know this, but it's illegal to price
gouge.
Not price gouge. When we're putting limits on like how high we can price control. It's like price control. Thank you. Rent control is
know
not.
that because of friends.
Yeah,
that's
like
the first time I ever heard that term.
Rent control is like illegal. Like they can't do that here.
State of Tennessee. Of course, it's illegal. Everything's illegal except for guns here. Sorry.
There's no limits on that.
Oh, good Lord. Okay.
Anyway, back to the arts.
So, reason why I asked about your brothers is, so what got you into art as a kid?
I kind of like always had like a creative side to me, or always wanted to express myself like in some creative way. But it's hard like when you grew up in like a very Christian like household. Like I couldn't put posters on the wall. Okay. So like anything that was on my walls were like things that I drew, like my little cartoon figures and stuff like that. So I felt a pull towards like either singing or like how I dressed or drawing or something like that. Like I've just like always felt creatively drawn like towards like arts and stuff like that.
Did your parents encourage that?
Not
or they
really.
Didn't care?
No, they didn't really. Like again, like not to downside or excuse me, talk bad about like immigrant parents, but like I feel like I want people to understand that a lot of times when people choose to leave their home country to come to America, it's because of like educational reasoning. Like you want your kid to be a lawyer, a doctor, like something that can bring income into the household. Okay. So like your kid telling you like, oh, I like to draw. Like these things are looked as hobbies. Like, oh, the things that you do on your downtime. Yeah. But what are you really doing
so you're
with your life?
An ophthalmologist?
Yeah.
You're gonna come and just do your little drawings.
Yeah, like you just like they're not looked at as like something to hone or like foster like this creativity. So it just like was always looked at as a hobby for me, for my parents. But one thing that they were very encouraging of was like I was the computer person because I'm 80s baby, so that's when like the internet is coming along and like and all of that. So I was always gravitated towards the computer. I was the one who they would call for all their tech needs and all of that because I got it. So they always knew that probably something tech related would be what I would end up doing, but I spinned it around and of course went into graphic design because that's using computers and arts at the same time. So I went to college to pursue that. Went to University of Central Florida in Orlando. And I ended up like going to the community college there, Valencia, to get my my associates in interactive design, so my graphic design, so I know how to build websites and like graphic design and stuff. And then I went back to UCF to get my bachelor's in interpersonal communications because like I felt learning how to communicate with people through design, those two things kind of go hand in hand because like when you're really into computers and like graphic design, you're not really thinking about how to like talk to people at the same time. So I felt like, okay, I'm trying to like bridge this gap between communication and arts and like what does that bridge look like for me? Yeah. And that's where we're at right now.
I get that because how I got into the design. So this is my 31st year of being a designer.
Oh, wow.
Because I took print shop at Fulton.
Okay.
So I come from the aspect of how are we going to print this? How are we going to produce this? Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of figuring out the function before the form.
Yes.
Sometimes.
Yes.
And it's like building a good base and then figuring out how to make it. But then there's some things that's just like, I don't know. This is what it should be.
Right.
I can't explain it.
Right. It just is.
It just is. Yeah. When you were a kid, were you into comics or cartoons?
I was, yeah.
Okay.
Like super into like I still have my collection of Archie comic books. Like throwback.
Archie. Okay.
Archie. Yeah, Archie and Jughead. A lot of like animes and cartoons, Pokemon and like all that stuff.
Okay.
I was really into anime as a kid. So
that is definitely a generational gap because I have 40-something long boxes of comics in there.
Oh, really?
But it's all Spider-Man, X-Men,
X-Men.
that kind of stuff.
I didn't really collect those comic books, like though I read them. I think my access towards comics were because Archies were sold at the grocery store, so that's like easy. Like my mom's not going to take me to a comic book store to go get some. Like, why are we here?
Yeah.
So like lower barrier of entry when you're just picking it up from the grocery store.
Oh my god, that'd be hilarious. Like, look at this. You walk in there and it's you walk into a comic book shop and you just start twirling or something.
Like I have
God. There's so much. There's so much
I
here.
wouldn't even know where to begin. Like, yes, literally. Like.
So when do you remember the first piece of art or artist that made you kind of take notice?
Really just like Disney, a lot of Disney and like fun, wholesome, like cartoons really, because again, like with my parents being like very Christian, access to like The Simpsons was offensive for them.
Wow. Okay.
Like that's where I'm dealing with. So I feel like I was very sheltered because I'm being brought up in this like very religious household. Like God is, the supreme leader of everything. Right. And I consider myself as spiritual, not religious. Like I have faith in God and stuff like that, but I don't feel like I have the same faith as my parents do. Like, so my parents are pastors too. So like, just like pastor kid, like, so imagine like that type of household and very involved with the church. So we were part of the breakdown team, always there. We were there on Sunday, last one to leave, first one to get there. We got Bible study and then the people come to your house for prayer worship. So very heavily Christian. Yeah. Nigerian household.
You're like, I just want to read my Archie comics.
Yeah, I just want to like, draw Little Mermaid now, or like Goofy,
God.
So I just think like because art was looked at as a hobby, not really seriously, it was hard for me to even remotely think that trying to be a full-time artist was something that I could do. Especially
but graphic design made sense to
graphic design made sense because it felt like a legitimate job. Like, hey, this is like industry. Like I'm not going rogue and like doing something by myself, And even with that, like after I graduated school and I started looking for a job, like the whole imposter syndrome of feeling like, okay, well, I couldn't go and get an unpaid internship to get all the skills that I needed to then have the experience that this company is needing for me to have, like these 3 to 5 years experience that I need to have as a junior designer. Like,
so I got another Knoxville thing for you. So I went to Mississippi, and that's where my degree is for design. Mm-hmm. The amount of companies that would not hire unless you went to UT was insane.
Wow.
Unless a lot of in-house place, if you're an in-house at a print shop or a company, you could sometimes get in because of that, but no agencies. You did not get hired at an agency if you went to Mississippi. And I went to
even with like a strong portfolio and everything.
Didn't matter. Old Boy Network. And
do you feel like that's the same now though?
I will. The only caveat is, and if you didn't come from here, like there were people
like from
who
Knoxville.
came from like, well, I went to, let's say UCF. Mm-hmm. Well, I went to UCF's design. Oh, then yeah, welcome in because you're not. Mm-hmm. Do I think it's still the same way? I have heard from a couple of people I don't know about agency life anymore because agencies are also dwindling, or it's down to like you get an agency and it's 4 or 5 people. It's not a big company anymore. I feel like a lot of people are saying a lot of the kids coming out of Pellissippi have stronger abilities in working the applications than people who went to UT.
And see, like when I went to UCF for my graphic design major, I ended up leaving there because I felt like I wasn't being taught.
Right.
So like going to the it's interesting that that's like the same parallel here, because going to the community college, I felt I had more hands-on like learning, like someone actually teaching me how to use like Photoshop and Illustrator, like giving me assignments based on the material that we're learning in class. And the instructors at UCF just didn't feel like I was learning.
Because at UT, you do not touch a computer for your first 2 years.
What?
First 2 years. And recently, they've removed any art requirements from graphic design. And I'm like, you are now 0 for 2. Like, you're not teaching kids art. Like, that's the basis of graphic design.
Yeah, this is why everything looks so basic now and like boring and like white and sans serif fonts.
But Pellissippi, it was like first semester, I'm touching a computer. It's like intro to Mac, which I had already had 4 years of working a computer up at Fulton. So I was teaching other older people who were in there. Because also when I went there, I was 17 and everybody else was like 25 or above.
Okay.
In the design program. Finally got a few people that were around my age, but it was mostly coming back for their like second career.
Okay.
Or they had failed LUT doing something else.
And then just like, there. Gotcha.
But it was just like, oh yeah, you don't have to click on the folder and then go up to file and hit open, because that's what the teacher was teaching. It was like, double click. It opens the folder.
So everyone was learning how to use a computer at the same time.
Well, this is also 96, so computers weren't as prevalent, but it's just, I don't know. It was funny. So that is funny that you went to, that's wild.
Yeah, it's like, I left the university to go get like actually taught how to do this.
Well,
at
I
the
will
community
say,
college.
like, I've gone up and done the UT portfolio review a few times, and oddly enough, and I'm the last one I went to, the person with the strongest portfolio there was like, you understand graphic design, was a young woman from Fulton. I was like, of course, because you had to work. I can't get on that soapbox. I was like, and then there were other people. There was a young man that his portfolio consisted of, he had gone to Home Depot and bought the letters that go on your mailbox and stapled them to telephone poles in the old city and taken photos. And I looked at him.
That was it?
Like, this is it? And he was like, yeah. I was like, be an artist. Switch your major. You're not a graphic designer. Be an artist. That's fine. Cool. You're an artist. Awesome. Mm-hmm. You're not a graphic designer. Please do not get a degree here saying you're a graphic designer. Again, hot takes, spicy takes. But it was just like, you shouldn't do this. And then there were other people that were good at the UI UX stuff. Mm-hmm. And I was like, keep on this. You're not a designer. You're a UI UX person.
Yeah.
There's one young man that he had developed like an app or something. I was like, keep doing this. You're very good at it. Your thought process. I was like, you're almost like a computer science person at this point.
Like problem solving right now.
Like figuring out like the hierarchy and all that. I was like, this is great. Focus on this. And almost each one of the kids, I would say, what do you like doing? What do you feel the most engaged and makes you feel good? And it was like, well, I like doing this. I was like, then do that.
Yeah.
You don't have to do a catch-all anymore. You can be very focused and be very good at that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the more focused you are, like the higher probability you have to just like be a master at that, like one craft, you know? I consider myself like I'm too kind of all over the place. I want to like work on everything. I want to like draw letters. I want to draw people. I want to draw landscapes. Like, and then I want to watercolor, then acrylic, then let's sew. And it's like a jack of all trades, like master of none. Like I'm good enough to like execute the thing that I'm trying to produce that I see in my head, but after I'm done with that, like I've moved on to another medium. Yeah.
All right, I'm bored of this. I'm going to go do this.
I'm going to go do this now.
Oh my God. Totally. Okay, so you go get your associates in design, your bachelor's in interpersonal communication.
Yeah. So interpersonal communication is like communication between like people, like how people converse, basically. I think it like works well within like HR and like higher level, like in like industries that have to deal with like people, basically. So like everything.
Okay.
Like how do you communicate ideas and thoughts in a way that people get it, basically.
Okay. What made you choose that?
I was going to do PR and marketing, but the PR and marketing program was like super, like you had to get in based on like GPA and stuff like that. And my grades just were not there. So this was like an adjacent to still doing public relations type work, because communication is, you know, kind of still a branch of like public relation. So this was like an adjacent degree.
And so you get out of there, and did you stay in Florida?
So I finished Valencia, go back to UCF, finish that, and then we moved to Knoxville.
What was the move to Knoxville? How did
so my boyfriend, now husband at the time, unfortunately, his grandfather passed here, and he owned a home here, and we were in a long distance relationship at the time, and we're looking for a place to come together. I had suggested Tennessee because he was born here and he lived here like when he was like till he was 12 or 13, and it's like hey, let's check out Knoxville, or let's go to, because I didn't want to be in Florida anymore, and neither did he, but circumstances happened with his grandfather that we like ended up landing in Knoxville. So that's what brought us here. Unfortunately, a tragedy that has ended up being like an 8-year married, you know, house, kid, like all that.
I would ask how that, but it's so Africa to Michigan to Florida
to Knoxville.
Was that it? Or were there any others?
No, there weren't any other states in between that.
Okay. But luckily, then to Knoxville.
Yeah, that's where we've been.
Where did you say UCF is?
UCF is in Orlando.
Okay.
So Miami, Orlando, and then
holy crap,
Tennessee.
Okay. Just keep going down in sizes. Like, wait, but you started in Michigan.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, that's Earl. He owns the west side of town.
It was kind of that small. Like, seriously. Super nice people. Like, really, really nice. But I didn't, because earlier you asked me about my experience in Knoxville, like with racism and like just like, and it's interesting. I felt more of that in Florida than I have here.
Really?
Because, but not, it's just maybe more prejudice than racism. I'll put it that way. Just like, you know, making assumptions about people. But I think that's just kind of like the culture in Florida, though, or in Miami.
Also, a weird fact I learned about Knoxville a few years ago was that the percentage of Black or African American people in Knoxville is higher than the national average.
Really?
I think the national average is like 11 to 12 in the United States percent. And in Knoxville, it's 17 to 18%.
So there's more African Americans in Knoxville, like, than in most states.
On average.
On average.
I was like, yeah, because there's Montana. and South Dakota. Well, it's also we're in the South. Like, not to take it way back, but it's like Alabama is
like right there.
Is also probably a very diverse, is from what I understand. I don't know much about Alabama. Very diverse state because of awful shit back in the day.
Right. Like, I guess that makes sense then.
Because I got into an argument with a friend of mine, God love her, when President Obama got elected. Mm-hmm. And I made a comment. It's like, well, Tennessee's not going to, it's going to be, we're going to vote, we're going to be red for when it comes to presidential election. She was like, it's a shame that, you know, Tennessee is still so racist. And I was like, hey, you live in New Jersey. I visited you. Do you know how many black people I saw when I was in New Jersey? 0. Shut up. Shut up. Like, I didn't, like, no.
Wait, what part of New Jersey?
East and New Brunswick.
Okay, so like affluent areas. Okay.
So it was like, I saw no diversity up there. I was like, I walk out of my house and I see diversity. What are you talking about? Like, It's like, shut up. And I was like, no, it's probably still a little bit of that, but it's also Republican. People just vote Republican.
Yeah.
My cousin found this quote that I love that is awful, but it's great, which is Democrats fall in love, Republicans fall in line. It's like they're just going to vote Republican no matter what.
Yeah.
I was like, and Democrats keep fighting with one another.
Yeah. Like a Democrat will like switch parties. Like,
yeah.
Like they're more likely to vote
the Democrats
Republican.
are not extreme enough for them,
Yes.
or not conservative enough for them, and it's just holy shit. It's like, hey, we all got to get in line,
right?
Because they are, and that's
like they're group thinking like real hard here.
And I know that feels weird saying a white guy saying, "Well, there's no, there is," but I think it's more of a Republican, like conservative viewpoint. I tried to explain to somebody at one point. I said, "Here's my like." Blinders on looking at I understand some Republican mentality, not now, but like 20 years ago, because I was like, because if you're a farmer in Kansas and you live in the middle of nowhere and your tractor breaks down, you have to figure out how to fix that yourself. So when it comes to seeing like, well, you just take it to the mechanic. You hear some people say that. It's like that dude or woman or whatever is so self-reliant that they don't understand why they have to give money to the government because they're not using the roads. They're self-sustaining on their farm. I was like, I get that. I understand the shit in the last 10 years. I'm lost. You're hating people just because they're people? Shut up. Just shut up. Sorry. I get the farmer in Kansas who's like so self-reliant that he's like, I don't know why I'm having to pay taxes.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
Totally. I don't get the stuff. I get the stuff now. They're just piles of shit, but
yeah, people are just selfish.
Yeah. Anyway, good. A lot of avenues down here. Okay. Get your degree in design, get your degree in interpersonal communication, move to Knoxville. What was it like coming here looking for a job? Were you looking for a job as a designer or
so like right before I left Florida, like a couple of things were like happening where I had just finished school. I started looking for jobs within in graphic design, and this whole thing happens with me moving. My job that I had in Florida, they somehow had a unloan location to me here in Knoxville, so I just ended up being able to transfer work. Like,
that's awesome.
like yeah. So at that point, like I kept trying to look for jobs, but again, with that whole gatekeeping of like, if you don't have experiences, so like some of like the design firms here, it just felt like if you don't have experience doing something, don't even bother applying. And I know that this is probably something that women suffer from. Like if we don't hit all of the qualifications on the job application, we're less likely to apply for it. Whether a man, if they like just hit like two things, you're like, I'm just gonna apply. So I just didn't feel that I had the capabilities to apply at that work. So what my plan was that I'm gonna stay at my current job and just do my own thing. I'm gonna give myself the experience that I feel like I'm lacking. And then once I have this like super awesome portfolio, I can go and start like applying at jobs and like working for someone. But over time, I felt like I was still battling the whole, hey, you're not good enough, that I just never really like overcame that. And that's kind of where like For the Masses came into the picture. I started a blog. I started writing about my mental health and started working on my creativity, started figuring out what I wanted in life and just like my viewpoints in life were, like when it came to like sustainability and like minimalism and mainly like mental help and like self-help and stuff, because I knew that my state of mind was blocking me from actualizing this like creative life that I felt like I wanted to live. So through For the Masses and with like the positive messaging around my work, I really started trying to embody what some of these positivity would look like in practice. Because one of the things that kind of irks me when you see like a lot of like self-help or like self-motivation, either artwork or book or whatever, it's a lot of like preaching to people, like talking at people. Like, hey, just like live, love, laugh, or like, you know, whatever, like all those like cliche things, like hang in there. Like, but what does hanging in there actually, like, what does that look like? How do you embody that? Like what does that look like as an artist in practice? And those were questions that I had to ask myself while being vulnerable, doing work that I felt like I wasn't good enough to do. So
at this point, were you doing lettering, or was it mainly artwork? So what made you get into lettering?
So I got into lettering. I think honestly, lettering when you're in graphic design, I feel like it's like just like a natural bridge, because if you've seen any of like the graphic design memes on Instagram, it's like, oh, what's the life of a graphic designer? And you're just like 40 hours of just like scrolling through fonts, like you know, trying to pick the perfect fonts. And I'm like, you know, if I can just draw what I want it to look like that would be great. Like, so that's kind of where it started. Like, hey, and especially when you're in Valencia, we did take a typography class. And like one of the classes that we did was like, hey, DIY, like design your own like lettering suite. And that was like so much fun, but I didn't even know that was lettering at that time, you know? And in 2015, 2016, lettering was kind of like having this like boom moment. Like everybody was lettering. Like you had bullet journaling and just like the Tombow markers and the brush markers. Like it was just like a whole hit. And
I feel like that's when I first saw Lauren
Home. Yeah.
Like when she started doing those murals.
Yep. Stefan Kuntz. Yeah. Like all those like good type, like those pages like that. And I really got into that like headspace because I'm just naturally type form, and typography was something like I'm like look how we're communicating through letters. And I just wanted to get good at it. So I went on a 100-day challenge of drawing every single day. And I was like, I kind of really having fun here. I want to keep going. And then I took it to 365 days. So I lettered literally every single day I got 465 days. Like, so on my wedding day, I lettered in that morning. I went camping and I had my sketchbook. So I took it to heart. And at first it kind of like was like, oh, like here's this repetitive, like, you know, process. But after I was done with the project and I looked back on like everything that I was like, especially with the motivational stuff that I was like lettering, I really felt disingenuous telling people, oh, invest in yourself, like, you know, all those like cliche messaging, when like I didn't believe that internally. So I think at this point for the masses has evolved into, hey, I'm talking about things that are difficult to talk about, but I haven't overcome them, and I'm overcoming them through the practice of this trying to be a full-time artist thing. Like, is my way of like battling my own self-doubt and my own limiting beliefs by like doing the thing that I feel like I'm not good enough.
It's also a good example of encouraging other people in a non-motivation, what's that dude's name with the big teeth?
With the big teeth.
God, what is that guy's name? Tony Robbins.
Oh, yeah.
In a non-Tony Robbins-y way, you're being like, hey, sometimes it sucks.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard. I saw a meme the other day that was like a drawing of a woman in bed, and it's like, Sarah is in bed and she's not lazy. She just has nothing to do that morning, and getting her rest is good, or something like that. I was like, yeah. Just because you're not getting up and photographing your phone at 3:37 in the morning, rise and grind.
Yeah,
we're making fun of rising and grinding.
Oh, 100%. I'm a rise and lay in bed for 15 minutes and then brush your teeth maybe.
So during the pandemic, when it was scary as hell, and I was working for myself, I finally figured out a point. It's like, you don't have to get up every morning. I was like, because single dude, there's nothing to do. There's no potential for work. You can't hustle because nobody's going out there. Just get up when your body naturally feels like getting up. And some mornings it'd be 8:15, and some mornings it'd be 12:30.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, that's
It's
just how it
okay.
is. And it felt so good.
Yeah.
And now that I have a job, I have to get up every morning. I'm like, this sucks. But I love getting a paycheck.
Yeah. Yeah, like imagine like what the world would look like if people didn't have to work for like basic necessities. Like if you had if you knew that you're going to have food on the table, roof over your head, like your basic like bare needs are going to be taken care of, like how would you spend your day?
God.
Like, and I feel like that's kind of what I'm trying to figure out.
I would love it. I know what I would do. I got 2 other podcasts that I would love to start. One of which I have 20-something episodes recorded.
Nice.
And the other one,
It's just finding the time, right?
it's finding the time. And I hate to say it, it's God love you. I'll give you a positive. You actually responded.
Oh.
The amount of times that I reach out and nothing, or look at it and ignore it, and I'm like, hey, just following up. And just crickets. And I was like, just say no. There's some people that have pushed me off so much. And I was like, just say no. You don't have to do it. But I probably ask 3 people for every 1 person I get, which is kind of a bummer. But I always ask, like I'll ask Esther every once in a while. I was like, who do I not know that I should have on?
Know.
And she'll say, reach out to these people. If you don't hear back from them, I'll reach out. Because it goes to whatever that requests in Instagram. But yeah. So that's,
sometimes people don't check those.
Yeah. But I've got one idea for a podcast that I will tell off mic. That I'm like, I think that could be a lot of fun.
Oh,
and
I can't wait to hear it.
Yeah, I'll put it down.
Okay.
I've got a great name.
Okay.
I've got the best name of ever that I'm like, I think a lot of people, I'm writing down the name. A lot of people would love to be on anonymously because they would want to tell stories.
Are you gonna like morph their voices though?
No,
like
but I
like
think,
a hidden camera.
At first, I was going to go anonymous too. I was like, I can't do that. I was like, I can't. I'm gonna have to just own my stories.
Okay.
And I was like,
it's me.
Yeah, it's me. But the people I interview is like, you don't know who that is. So, yeah, that's totally. Also, that we didn't all have to live by an 8-to-5 life.
Yeah.
Like, that's something that happened during the pandemic where all the grocery stores were closing and Walmart and stuff were closing at like 8 o'clock. It's like, hey, there are people that work like 3rd shift and stuff that they can't get to the grocery store until late. Like, stop.
Yeah, this is affecting people in like a massive way.
This is finally, I think Walmart and Target, which God love, whatever. I've gotten fussed at. They're like, but they're anti-union. I was like, I just need to get deodorant, man. Like, I'm not asking for the world.
Like, this is why maybe you should advocate for more like local mom and pop shops around the corner from your house, so you don't have to go to Targets and Walmarts.
There's an old food city over here. It used to be a Bilo, then it was a food city, and there's nothing there. And I was like, can we have an Aldi? Or I would just take an Aldi there. I was like, it would do so much business.
It would.
And it's also a massive store to where you can actually, I want a grocery store downtown. And I would love for it. Exactly.
That would be great.
Exactly. So I'll give you homework of somebody that I had on before that was a great episode, and you're going to hear me talk about me.
Okay.
I apologize for that. Chris Battle, Battlefield Farm.
Okay.
That he is fighting food deserts. When you were talking earlier about being in that small town.
Mm-hmm.
So the funny thing that came out on that episode was he got called Honky before I ever got called Honky, which I was like, really, Chris? He was like, yeah. Like,
it happened.
But him talking about combating food deserts was just like, this is genius. The other one I would give you is Gail Henson, who is a muralist. She is...
Is she a local artist?
Yes. She is mainly in schools.
Okay.
She's 80-something years old.
Okay.
She takes no guff from no man. She is my hero. Like, she is an awesome woman. Like,
nice.
She is great.
And she's 86, still painting murals?
80-something, 83. We didn't end up saying it on the podcast because I was like, that's not polite to ask. But then she was showing me something later, and she still works 7 days a week.
Wow.
Gets up on scaffolding.
Like, so she's still in her 80s, still painting murals. That's awesome.
And
see, that's what I aspire to be.
She was showing me her truck with all her paint and stuff. And she's like, would you believe I think she said 83. And I was like, I didn't want to ask. I thought you were like 70, maybe. And she's like, oh no, I'm 80. It's like, holy shit.
That's awesome.
Wow. Like, you're my hero, man.
Yeah.
You're awesome. Like,
But like, and working, doing something that she enjoys.
Yeah.
And like making a
same
living
thing.
off of that.
she's in schools. This is probably a lot of kids' first experience with art.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe only experience with art. And they're getting to see these big wall murals from Gail. Like, I love her. I think she's awesome. Like,
yeah, I had there's a Instagram, I guess, associate friend of mine. She just recently did a mural at a school, and the kids were like a part of this. She lives in like Cincinnati, Ohio.
Yeah.
And the kids from the school were a part of like bringing the mural to life and stuff like that. And I wholeheartedly think that if growing up, if I saw more working artists, just doing it, like, it didn't even have to be big. Like, you don't even have to be doing it big. Just like doing it and like, hey, I'm living off of this. It would have probably given me more of a confidence and more belief that I could do this too. So I 100% agree with you that kids seeing artists in their fields, coming to the schools, seeing them thriving is important for them to think that this is a possibility for them too.
My friend Bud Reese.
Yes, I know Bud. Yes.
Okay, you know Bud. So that thing he just did at Rita, where he took all the kids' arts and turned it into mural.
I thought that was just so genius.
Bud, if you weren't in Memphis, next time I see you, I'm going to hug the shit out you. I was like, because
I have not met Bud in person, unfortunately, really? But I'm like, we got acquainted through like other artists, like. Everyone mentions Bud all the time.
So Bud's another one that when he was learning how to do signage, I never remember this dude's name. He's another guy in his like 80s who like he did the Stripe Light building over where the old food truck park was on Central. It was a transmission shop.
Yes.
And the guy who did the original transmission shop came back and did the Stripe Light sign.
Nice.
And Sarah Shabaro.
Okay.
She was saying his paint was in his truck. He would come down the ladder. He was also in his 80s. Come down the ladder, dip his paint, and then go back up the ladder. And she was like, can I get something? He's like, no, this is how I work. This is just how I work. And we'll just do it. And Bud learned kind of from him and got to meet him. I was like, I would love to get him, but he is also in his 80s, and Gail has a Facebook page. That guy does not have a Facebook page.
Like, I need an email address or something.
I need a phone number. I'm going to actually have to call somebody. Like, what the hell?
House phone, too.
Yeah. Sarah was telling me the story about him, and he was like, I did that. And she was just like, he was like, do you want me to paint over? No, leave that. That needs to still be up there.
Yes. Like, that's one thing I like about like signage work, like especially like downtown on Jackson, the shoe. Like I just seeing the worn art like of what was there before. I really hope that they don't end up painting over those buildings.
Well, and I will say, there's right there at Central and Broadway, that Carpet headquarters. There was an old, like, I think it's a Coca-Cola sign on the side that had worn down, and then they repainted it. I was like, I actually love that you repainted it exactly how it was.
Oh, that's
great.
I was
like, I love that. I was like, I like seeing the worn stuff, but I like that you
just
didn't
cleaned
paint
it up.
some other crap on
Yeah. You just like refreshed the old artwork, basically. At that, right? Yeah. That's what they did. Yeah, okay.
Same thing. There's I think Bud. I'm trying to remember if Bud did this or the older guy did. There's a plumbing supply store there on Broadway. Mm-hmm. There on the sidewall. Mm-hmm. So it was either Bud or that older guy.
Okay.
Cleaned it up. Bud cleaned up the Friezo, and he just went in there. He's like, I'm going to paint this ice cream cone with a smiley face.
Nice.
It's so great.
And are more artists just like allowed to? I guess it's called graffiti or just vandalism if you don't get permission to do it. But like, if you're fixing art that's already there, like, why can't we just like more freely do that?
I can't go down that rabbit hole.
Okay.
There are shitty developers in town that would probably not let you do it, because even if you offer to do it for free, just because they're so curmudgeonly. There's a certain developer in town that has a piece of property that has a hole in the ceiling. And a friend of mine went in there and said, oh, there's a hole there. Are you going to fix that? And they went, no, you have to fix that. Esther just recently had a same issue with that same developer. Went and looked at an apartment, and the oven was coming off the wall. And she was like, are you going to brace that against the wall? And they're like, no, we don't do that.
What?
Yeah.
This is like a safety hazard, though.
Yeah. And this is a developer who's been a developer in town for a very long time.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that's like...
It's like, why do we keep giving you contracts?
Well, it's one of those people that's like...
Affluent.
Well, they own a lot of property.
Oh, I know.
I think it's... Wait,
now.
I should rephrase that. They own a lot of property. They're not developers because they don't do jack.
Right.
But
they have the money.
They're one of those that's like, man... I'm in for big government to be in like, hey, you're letting this fall apart. You got to go.
Mm-hmm.
You got to sell this. You got to do that parking garage downtown, Pryor Brown, that's by the Bijou, the one that's just falling apart with that big open lot next to it, Cumberland Avenue.
I know what you... Yes. Yeah.
So that thing, there's a phrase that I can never remember. It's like demolition via dereliction or something like that, to where it's like you just leave it and let the elements kind of rip it apart, and then you're like, see, it's inhabitable, so we're going to have to demolish this. And what I said to a friend of mine is like, they could have made millions of dollars in the 20 years they've let that fall apart. They could have made millions of dollars on that property, but instead of investing, let's say $100,000, and they had it 20 years ago and fixing it up.
Right. Now it's going to cost millions. So
yeah.
like,
Or they're thinking they're going to sell that property for million. I was like, you're idiots. Like, just, you shouldn't have the money. It should be people who are actually going to develop. Because there's a piece of glass with some hand lettering that I actually posted up on social media. I was like, can somebody figure out how I can steal this? I was like, I'll totally own that I'm doing that. I was like, but this piece of glass with this lettering has been here since I've been alive.
Oh, wow.
And I would love to, and it doesn't look
on
great.
glass?
It's on the inside.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's painted on the inside.
Okay.
And it's not even, it's not great, but but it's still, for some reason, I'm going to pull it up on my computer so you can see it. But it means something to me just because it's
history. And
it's been there as long as I have been alive.
Really? That's been there that long?
Yeah.
Wow. And it looks like it was just done like last week.
I pass by it all the time. And it's just like, how do we save this?
Yeah.
This doesn't need to get broken into a million pieces because some idiot just wants to demolish this building.
Yeah.
I was like, I'll figure out a place for it. And one of my buddies was like, I'm not kidding. Let's just go take it. I was like, dude, you don't know how.
If you have a glass cutter, bro, like I'm there.
Well, somebody actually told me, they're like, oh, here's how you remove. They actually DM'd me and they're like, oh, here's what you do. You remove the epoxy thing and it should just come right out. I was like, well, I'm going to need gloves because I'm sure those edges are not clean. But I'm like, are we really talking about this? I'll steal it. I don't care.
It seems like there's a crew ready to go when you're ready.
Also, but that's why I say that person who owns that, if I said something to them about taking that, they'd probably like, you're going to need to pay us like $500 for that.
Oh, absolutely.
Why?
Yeah.
Why? You're not going to do anything.
So let me ask you a question. You know how like before, because we mentioned Dogwood Arts and like just arts and like public spaces and stuff. Remember before Strong Alley became Strong Alley, it was just like an alley. Like you could go in like graffiti or just like put up your artwork and it was never a thing. Like now, like it has to be either approved by Dogwood Arts and stuff like that, or the building, Dogwood Arts and the building owners to put that. Like, how do you feel about that? Like, what are your thoughts?
I don't see as many taggers, I'll use an old term, taggers or street or graffiti artists as much anymore as I used to. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of graffiti artists I see that even just still use spray paint actually are willing to or get commissioned or whatever. Like I found a guy on Instagram that was like, oh God, this dude is an immediate follow. Because he just did like a mouth with a grill with spray paint and it looked like a photo.
Nice.
And I was just like, dude, what is happening? Like,
is he a local artist?
No, he's just some random showed up on my feed.
Okay.
But it was just like, I sent it to a friend of mine, Hannah, that I share stuff with. And same thing. She was just like, man, this is amazing. I see a lot more of that. Like that dude found a blank wall and did it. Like it wasn't a part of anything else. And I don't know if he got commissioned by the people who own
I
that
doubt
building.
it though. I guess that's just it. Like I'm seeing, I don't see as much art like that.
I don't
locally.
see as many people who are just putting up their tag.
Yeah.
Like Panda was a big one around here
Yep.
forever that you would see everywhere. I don't see that as much. I don't know that it's gone downhill or what's the
Maybe
word?
it's like, is there like more stricter, like just building owners who are just like way more like tense about like their buildings being.
Or I think it may be the flip. A lot of the people who did that actually have opportunities now to do murals.
Oh, okay.
So maybe it's
They're just
that's
being
why we
paid
don't
now?
see as much of that anymore.
Okay.
That would be my only guess. That is one I don't know. I've not even thought about that.
Yeah.
Strong Alley, I think it's cool. I think it's cool to have an alley like that because I think you have a lot of kids and families from
It's a nice.
Maynardville or somewhere not from here who come down here for like the tree lighting the other night. It was packed. And you have kids from Maynardville coming down that, you know, the young girls, they got to get the photo of them standing in front of the Megan Lingerfeld
Yeah.
piece or something like that. And I think that's, maybe it's not encouraging. That may be a subtle way to get art more out there.
I see.
As in, it's not like they're not doing the art, but it's getting it in more people's brains of like, oh, this is a cool thing to do, that it may in the long run afford more opportunities for more artists to do stuff.
Yeah. I will say that like when I got to paint the mural with Sarah O'Leary in the alley, like during the time that we were there, a lot of people would come up to us like asking like, oh, did you just show up? Like they were surprised that we were commissioned to like they were paying us to come and paint in the alley. And I thought like people felt like that was cool. Like, hey, people are like, you know, you're getting an opportunity to do this. Like, this is not illegal. Like, like you have permission to be here. And it felt like they were both surprised and like, oh wow, like that's great, but like also surprised, like, oh wow, like they're alive. Like, they just, that's just how it works now. But I don't feel like a lot of artists know that like that's happening.
The pathway to
the pathway to get there. Yeah.
See, that's where I feel like Dogwood Arts, Maker City, Arts and Culture should come through and hold classes saying, hey, if you want to do art in public places, but again, I hate to keep going back to kids, but I think it's a lot of the kids that don't know you can do that. Like, and teaching them, like also too, like go and why doesn't somebody from Dogwood Arts go and talk to Fulton's art class? Because you know the kids in the art program at Fulton, I hate to keep bringing up Fulton, but it's where I'm from.
Yeah,
so
it's where you went to. Yeah.
The art teacher probably knows the 10 to 12 kids in their program. They're like, these kids could actually make art as a living. So why don't I get them to stay after class one day and have professionals come in and talk? That was something I would love to see push for more. And I'm actually on some panel thing, not panel, but I'm a part of something next Tuesday to where I'm involved in some Knox County schools art thing. We went to Bearden Middle School last time.
Okay.
Where you got to learn and then you got to give like feedback.
Okay. About their art program or whatever. Yeah. Okay.
How the hell I got invited, I do not know. I do not know.
What are you talking about? You just told me you got like 30 years of like design experience.
What's funny, that doesn't matter. If I applied at Tombers right now, they would laugh me out of the building.
Yikes.
And I was like,
I think I did apply to Tombers. That was part of the discouraging error.
That's not discouraging. You dodged a bullet there. That is one that I have heard from people who have worked there, that if you get on the right team, you're good. But it's very hard to get on the right team.
Yeah.
And it's also, they want younger people that they can pay no money and work them to death and then go on to the next people.
Yeah. And I like,
God,
like that knowledge of like, you know, when you work in an industry or even just like a design firm or whatever, if it's just like 4 or 5 people, you don't have control of the projects that you do. You don't have control of like the things, the work that is being tossed to you. So like when I made the decision to like go on well, working for someone else is not going to work for me. Let me try to like do my own thing. It really was like, hey, I get to just like specifically do work that excites me and like build a portfolio off of work that is like meaningful to me versus like, getting experience from like doing work that is only benefiting this one entity
Right.
or like the company that hired them to do the work for them
Okay.
or whatever, you know.
Okay. I'm going to ask on that, but before I do that, I'm going to say allegedly.
Oh, that's my
Do
favorite
not
word.
sue me. Do not sue me. Do you know Jesus and Marrow?
What is his name?
Jesus and Marrow, they were on the Vice channel, then they were on Showtime, these two guys from New York. But he would say allegedly, and he would do this like he was...
Oh, is it, were they like cooks or something like that?
Oh,
no?
no.
Okay, never mind then.
They were both immigrants.
Okay.
And one of them was, his parents were from Jamaica. And he talked about the hard work ethic of Jamaican parents, which that was the first time I'd heard that. He was like, wait, his dad would be like, you don't have 4 jobs? I don't understand. What are you doing with your life? Why are you wasting your life?
Right.
But one of the guys, he would say allegedly, and he would do like that, sprinkling it.
Yeah.
And
Salt Bae.
Somebody photoshopped in like all these allegedly falling. I was like, allegedly. Because they would make some rough remark about somebody, like the mayor or something. They'd be like,
Right.
allegedly, I'm sprinkling or
Yep.
allegedly.
That's the safe.
Okay. In the vein of going to do more of the work that you want to, now you mentioned that you do a plethora of work, a lot of different types of
A
work.
lot of mediums.
A lot of mediums. So do you like that, or do you want to be driven more by just one form of media?
I think the more I'm touching my hands into things, the more I'm like, kind of like streamlining things a little bit, like condensing, like, okay, these are the things that like really get like make my heart smile. Like I like the process of this. And that's kind of like really like printmaking. It's like the avenue that I see myself wanting to explore more into, because it mixes hand done work with printing, which is still like in a hand done fashion, and the result still varies based on like the application of like your paints and how you're using your tools or whatever. So printmaking is probably going to be like the field that I see myself like trying to go forth and conquering in, but still like with a taste of like graphic design and lettering and like all of that.
I am trying like crazy to push Sarah at, it's not Stripe Light anymore. It's called like Shapes with No, I think is what she's changed it to. Sarah Shabaro.
I've heard of Sarah.
So I want her to do more letterpress workshops.
Yes.
Because it's like...
I would be there in a heartbeat.
There's 3 of us now.
Heartbeat.
And I talked to her about it. And because she's been doing the, risograph. I'm not the biggest fan of risograph.
I like, I think it's called lithograph.
Lithograph,
yeah. I like the process of that too. But I think it's risograph.
Okay.
Yeah. I know.
But letterpress, she was like, maybe I'll do like a friends and family to just get back into the stream of things, like figuring out what I need to do. And she's like, I'll hit you up. And I keep bugging her.
Please keep on, because I will
I'll keep
be
you in
there.
mind. Because I'm not kidding. There was another person, Andrea Martinez, who's on the podcast. We talked about it. And she's like, I wish she would offer those again. I was like, I actually know her. I will ask.
Nice.
And
I think I met someone who works at Pioneer House.
Julie.
Maybe that was her.
Julie or Kara.
She was at the Relay Ridges recent print anonymous. I think she was working on the
white hair or black curly hair.
I think it was black curly hair.
That's Kara.
That's Kara. Yeah. So
she's awesome.
Yeah, she was super sweet. I was talking to her about letterpressing, and she was telling me how they have like the more industrial like machines there. Yeah, the heavy duty one. And I wondered if they have a workshop. I just want to learn how to letterpress.
Julie's another one that if you don't know Julie's history, it's amazing. Like she and her former partner Kevin were Yeehaw Letterpress, which were massive. And then they split up, and he does his own thing, and she does Pioneer House.
Okay.
And she had not done printing for a long time, and then Dogwood Arts got her back into printing.
Nice.
And she did these big pieces where she did woodcut of dogwoods that they are the most gorgeous pieces. And she has, because after that, started to get more into producing her own work. Whereas Kara's been there just working her butt off, like producing her own pieces, and it's amazing.
Yeah, I printmaking is just because it's just not digital. Like I don't have anything against digital art. Like obviously I do graphic design as well. But just something about the hand physically putting your entire body into the work is just like very fulfilling for me. But also I think like just like murals. That's why mural work intrigues me too, because it's like outdoors and elements. Like it's a very physically taxing process.
So we talked about you wanting to do more, like getting more into hand work. So like with your murals, is there something? Do you know? Would you like to do more murals, or do you have bigger picture
100%. I definitely want to do more murals because I've kind of just like really been enjoying larger scale work because it forces me to step away and come back to it. Like I can't finish it in a day. And I'm so used to doing work that I can like do in like a couple of days or something like that. And when you're doing like a larger scale work, you have to be okay with allowing your work to look like shit and like coming back to it and be like, I promise y'all it's gonna look better. Like, it's not gonna look like this at the end of it. So it's challenged me creatively and just physically. Like it's really physically demanding to do murals. Like
did it take a while to get? Are you over the imposter syndrome when it comes to murals, or did it take you a minute to get past that?
I think after like, because I got my first mural before doing the workshop with Megan, and that was like a project that like it didn't start off being like, hey, I want like some painted, wall words on the wall for Knoxville. Like we had like a whole totally different idea when Michaela came to me asking if I wanted to work with them. So she asked me if I was comfortable with doing the mural, and I said yes, because I'm like, I can paint, like, I can figure this out. But after doing the workshop with Megan, I got a lot more comfortable knowing that, okay, if I make a mistake, I can definitely just paint over it. So I'm over the imposter syndrome a bit, depending on what the project is.
Okay.
Like, we'll put it that way.
Okay.
Like, and only because like of like size and scale. Like I haven't done anything like super massive quite yet.
Okay.
And I think once I check that box, it's like, okay, I can do anything now. Like,
well, there's one of those that Megan did for ORNL that was just like, good, sweet Jesus.
Oh,
like
are you talking the recent one that she just
whatever
did?
It was, that it was just like an entire side of a building. I think it was like a year ago or something, maybe.
Oh, okay.
And it was like an entire side of a building. I was like, good God almighty, that's insane.
Yeah, that's her work is very detailed and intense. Like,
I do not know her at all. It's been interesting seeing her growth over the years.
Not
because I remember seeing the early pieces. No offense to her, if she was sitting right there, you hopefully know me well enough now to where I'd be like, it was good, but what you've gotten to is amazing.
Yeah, I think but that's like kind
That's
of natural,
everybody.
like as an artist though. Like if your work is like looking the same as the beginning, it's like
Here's where I feel comfortable saying this. I have more portfolio in a closet. When I first started Feral Giant, I would take pictures of my portfolio pieces when I graduated college and critique them, and no one is more brutal.
Of course. Yes.
On their own work than an individual.
Yes, 100%.
Rip them to shreds. I'd just be like, what the hell was I thinking, man?
But did that help you grow though? Like reducing your work, or like, do you feel that you were unjustly or harshly criticizing yourself?
I think I've always been that way.
Okay.
So I would, even when I was in college, I would do a piece and relook at it 4 weeks later and be like, I need to do this, this, and this to fix it. And there are two things that, because I'm always hypercritical, have come out of that. Anytime I talk to younger designers, I was like, when you're building your portfolio, I'll say this to you too right now. Don't be afraid to redo something that is done previously.
Oh, 100%.
Like,
yes, agreed.
Don't think just because you did a mural and you did it that for you or for anybody, it's like, don't think that you have to show that because it's done and official. Screw that.
Right.
Nobody knows. Nobody cares.
Right.
You should be showing your work of where you're at now or your ability. And the other thing is, one of the biggest things for me as a designer is learning to do work and then hit save and go to bed.
And like detach from it.
And look at it the next morning.
Yes.
And see things.
Yep.
That was a crazy thing that it took working for myself to kind of figure out.
Yes.
Because I wasn't on anybody else's deadline except for my own.
Right.
Kind of.
And that's kind of like the freedom of like when you're working for yourself as a, as an artist, you're kind of like your own boss. Like you're the person who says when this is finished, essentially. So like practicing that eye of like, when do I think that my work is done enough? And like maybe not saying that it's done when I'm like super stressed working on this. Like, yo, go to sleep. Like, take a break, walk away, and then come back with fresh eyes and see like, because I can't tell you the amount of times that I've walked away from something because I was so stressed. But then like when I finally lay down in bed, like the solution just came to me while I'm like laying down, like, oh, that's like, and I'm so excited to get up the next morning to go and try. It's like, yes, like that was it.
See, I'm not, the minute I go to bed, I stop thinking about it.
You do? Oh,
and then once I open the file back up, something will be glaring. And I'll be like, oh crap, I need to do this. And it could be something simple as, I need to change this typeface. This typeface does not work. That's what the block was that was driving me nuts last night. And the minute I see it, I'm like, oh, that was
the issue.
Oh, my dad made fun of me for years because we'd go to Hooters before we played poker, and I would critique the menu, and he'd be like, what are you doing, boy? I was like, what? And he was like, the kerning on this is all off. What are they doing here? Like, he's like, why is the H and the O so far? He's like, shut up. Sorry, Dad. Yeah, I can't stop. Like, I can't stop. I actually have a photo. I was in a bar here in town, and they have their logo up on the glass, and I looked at it as like, the kerning is awful on this. And I took a picture of it, and I was like, don't be an asshole. Is
this like recent?
Yeah.
Recently?
Yeah.
Okay.
Here, I'll write it down.
Okay.
I hate when people do that on podcasts, but I'm still going to do it. I saw it, and I was what's funny is I was facing it. Like my friend was sitting across from me, and I was facing it, so I was just staring at it the whole time.
Okay, I'm so interested.
And I was not having a good time in that bar, which anybody who listens to me is probably, anybody who's very close to me, I have expressed my feelings about that bar because it was just like awful experience. Just awful.
Okay.
To even, my friend who was with me, I was like, am I nuts? He was like, no, it's terrible.
So this is like a place that you've gone to multiple times, and like, okay,
just
like that one time. Okay.
In the last 3 weeks, and my friend and I met there to have a drink, and there was not one good redeeming part about the whole thing. To the point, it's like, man, if I had one thing, I wanted to give them the benefit of the doubt. I think this is a cool space. This could have been good. And then he had never been to another bar, and I was like, you want one more drink? He was like, yeah, one more drink. I was like, cool. Let's go to this other bar. I'm going to show you it. We went in there. He's like, that was amazing. I was like,
wow.
Boom. I was like.
So it wasn't just you.
No.
Okay.
Yeah. And he has as many hot takes as me. So. What would you like to see more of in art and creativity? Here comes the big hitter questions.
Ooh. Honestly, just like more people just putting themselves out there, even if they don't know what they're doing. Because like, I feel like even friends of mine who are creatives, like writers, producers, like their biggest blockage is like the fear of feedback. Like, what will other people say? And I'm like, always like, bro, do you like it? Then that's all that matters. Like, if you're creating work that you enjoy, that like at the end of the day, you read that and you liked it, I promise you there's like, you're not niche enough to be the only person who only likes it. Like, you're not that cool. Like, you know, like someone else is bound to like the thing that you like. But I feel like the reception of feedback is like, so like, especially if it's not positive, like not everything has to be like, it's okay for someone to tell you that your work kind of like sucks. Like, as harsh as that is, but do you agree with that feedback is like the deciding factor. But if you like it and someone is telling you that your work sucks, like, it's not really going to matter, because to you conveyed or portrayed whatever it is that you wanted to get out.
Yeah.
So I really would like to see more just like new up and coming emerging artists.
Okay.
Like, and I think that speaks to what we were kind of like drilling on earlier about having access for kids and like the youth to art, and like seeing this like playing out in real time, like what that looks like, probably goes hand in hand with that.
There's a comedian who said this, and then there's a rapper who kind of said something similar, but said, don't be afraid to suck at something.
Yeah.
It's like, that was Bert Kreischer. So the funny thing on this podcast, there's 3 people I mention on every podcast. I can't help it. Jimmy Pardo is one of them. Bert Kreischer's the other. Kevin Smith's the other one.
Okay.
His biggest thing, if you've never seen on YouTube, is it costs nothing to encourage an artist.
Yes.
Which I love.
100%.
So the other one is Killer Mike does a life advice thing for Adult Swim, and he says, be okay with being you. He was like, what is it? He said, there's 10 guys around Jay-Z who will never be Jay-Z. He was like, be okay at being average.
But see, like even that though, like I think people still crave validation to be average, to be themselves. Yeah. So like, how do you break from like needing a co-signing?
I guess I look at that and look at Bert's thing about saying be okay at sucking at something.
Yeah.
Of just like, you will get better. You just got to work at it.
Yeah.
And it's not a rise and grind thing. It's just like and how good you are may be average. And that's okay.
Right. There's like levels to everything though. Like, and that's just it. Like there's still meaning in all of those levels. Like, it's like everyone wants to be like the Beyonce of like whatever it is that they're doing and be like on this like freaking pedestal. But like, what about all of the people behind Beyonce who help Beyonce be Beyonce? Like all of those roles are pivotal. You may not be in the driver's seat at all time, but like what you have to bring to the table is just as equally important. And if you don't give yourself that room to suck enough to be good, then you're never going to be good. And I think like the 100 days of me sucking at lettering was essential for me to rise up to the 365 days of sucking a little bit less. But now
you'll never know until you take that chance.
Yeah, exactly.
You take that leap.
Yeah, 100%. I say that a lot. 100%.
So I got that from Bert. Bert says that a lot, and I was like 100%. Is there anyone you would like to work with?
Ooh, that is a question I've never been asked before. Does it have to be like local?
No. Shoot from the moon. But here, I'll tell you, while you're thinking, my dream for a podcast guest, I would love to sit down with Sylvester Stallone and smoke a cigar and just talk about life and art. He's also an artist. He's a very good artist, and he doesn't talk about that enough. Which is wild.
That's interesting.
Yeah. But he is someone, I love the Rocky films so much. And I know that he is actually a smart dude. Mm-hmm. That he is like Schwarzenegger. I don't know that I could sit down and talk. I think that would just be a bunch of. Remember when I said I'll be back? It's like, yeah, we know.
Yeah.
But I think Schwarzenegger or Stallone would be a fascinating person to sit down.
Cool.
And smoke a cigar with.
I think I'm gonna
shoot for the moon.
I'm gonna say this person just because like it's just what's on my mind right now. But I would like to like Solange, Beyonce's sister. I'm actually more of a Solange fan than Beyonce because I feel like when it comes to like visual, like artistic and storytelling, but like deep rooted storytelling about like culture and stuff, like her music really speaks volume to that. Okay. And I like how a lot of her music really does center Blackness and her identity as a Black woman and as a female artist as well. So yeah, that would kind of be like a dream collaboration for me.
So I joked about that with a friend of mine. I was like, that would be my dream to sit down with Sly. I'm only coming back to say this. And he's like, in this day and age, that's possible.
Yeah.
In this day and age, you working with Solange, totally possible.
100%.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Yeah. Because it is. It's like you get in front of, well, for me, it would be a little harder because he is getting older. I might have to light a fire on that.
Yeah, you got to like get going.
Yeah. But it's easily one of those things of like, I will fly myself where he lives in Florida now, so that's not as bad.
Yeah, that's like right there.
Yeah. Florida. It was like, I will come to Florida.
And be a Florida man.
All I ask is, I hate to say it with him, but like, please just give me an afternoon. Don't limit me to an hour, because I love the talking to get to the points. Like, and I would come with some deep cuts with him. I'd be like, what about
Like,
this?
we're going to go there.
Yeah, we're going to get this.
Yeah.
I feel like Solange. I think that's good.
Yeah, just like artistically, I like, and also she's not really in the public eye like that. Like, I think that her work is very personal, and I like people who are really trying to exude their life story with like their artwork as well.
Okay. One of my favorite band is like that Sigur Rós. They're an Icelandic band that sing. They made up their own language called Hopelandic. I have no idea what they're saying.
Okay.
But it makes me cry.
I love that.
Absolutely amazing. And they definitely have vision. And they did an album, can't remember what it's called, but they got different artists and filmmakers to do videos for each one of the songs.
Nice.
And they slowly released those. I was like, man, you guys.
See, I like that. Like when you were bringing other people into the fold. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you set goals or have a checklist?
I do set goals, yes. And I'm a very, if I don't plan out what I'm going to do for that day, I more than likely will just mull around looking for something to do or go doom scrolling. Like,
okay. Do you have an idea box or folder to where if you get an idea, you sketch it out?
Yes. I have like a little to-do list, like, okay, that's like pick up my phone and go like put that down in. Yeah. Okay. And then it's like, it might sit in there for 5 or 6 years before I get to.
If I could dig it out, actually, I have an envelope box that is full
of like ideas.
See,
my way of like trying to go through the list. So I got some of my top ideas and I put it in a jar, and I was like, oh, every month I'm going to like work on a new project. So I would shake it up and like randomly, whatever I picked out of the box, that's what we're going to work on. But that only lasted for like 2 months. And then my third idea, it's still a work in progress for like 2 years. So.
See what I started doing. I don't believe in New Year's resolutions, but I would do year projects. At first, it would start. At first the year, then it started birthdays. And one year it was, I want to physically mail a postcard every day of the year.
Oh,
I did it for 365 days.
You did.
I missed one day. I missed Valentine's Day. And I wasn't even seeing anybody. I was just sitting my happy ass right here. And I just somehow missed that day. But I would draw. I would write notes. I would ask friends who had kids. I was like, what are they into? I was like, oh, they like Toy Story. So I would draw a Toy Story character and mail it to them.
So who were the people, though?
Everywhere. Australia, Iceland, Denmark.
That's
like
amazing.
Everywhere. I would just put out a call online. And some of them, at one point I was like, I'm going to write to every restaurant or venue, or like old school Yelp, and actually write, hey, I came there and I had a great time and this is what I loved. And so when I would travel throughout the year, I would write down the places that I liked and I would mail them a postcard later with a review. And some of them ended up following me on social media. They're like, holy shit, this is awesome. Like a cigar shop in Detroit followed me because they were like, this was very nice. I was like, we don't need Yelp. Let's just do this. Like, hang this up on your bar. Like, I was like, this
like
is
in-person feedback.
Yeah.
Yes.
I did one where I did a good deed every day of the year.
But what did you do? What did you consider a good deed?
That was a little wide. Holding the door open for people. Sometimes counting.
Okay.
At the end of the year, I did 500, I think, good deeds. I missed like 30 days, but I still did 500 good deeds.
Okay.
And I wrote them down. I carried a field notes with me and wrote them down. And it was just like, I just want to see if I can do this. And because I'm stubborn, I'm going to do this.
And that's like, honestly, when it comes to like pursuing art, that's like, I feel like that's the energy you should have. Like, I just want to see if I can do this.
The one that I have failed on, and I stopped doing them because I was like, if I can't hold to my guns, like it was birthday of 2019. I was like, I want to do a collaboration with somebody every month. Setting no limits. Like one guy was like, I used to skateboard as a kid. He's like, I want to build you a skateboard. I was like, can we get together and work on that? He's like, yes. And then the pandemic happened. So I had done like 4 or 5. I had not done all. I was like, at one point I was like, I just need to do 12 in a year.
Yeah, yeah,
I can't do one a month. Like life happens and whatever. But once the pandemic, I was like, I haven't brought that back up. I was like, I need to do that again. I want to.
See, I should. You mentioned I'm forgetting like a huge life moment in my life, and just that was like becoming a mom. Like that definitely changed the room of like being able to just like freely do things whenever I want to, because time and space and mental capacity to think about
sleep. I've heard about the lack of sleep.
And sleep. So I fell off on a lot of things like when my kid was born. So juggling motherhood and running a business and like being a wife and taking care of a home, like I'm constantly wearing a lot of hats and I don't know how I make it all work, but I give myself grace, and like I know if I got 2 hours or 3 hours to work on something, it's probably the most work. It is focus time.
That's the parent superpower. I don't know how I'm going to get this done, but I'm going to get it done.
I'm going to get it done.
Yeah. Oh my God. There's a couple I know that they had a baby, Summit, and I went over there, and Summit wasn't the best sleeper. I went over there. I held Summit. Summit slept in my arm for like 4 hours.
Wow.
Where I could not feel my arm. And they were like,
did they not let you
can
leave?
You come back? Can you come back? And I keep saying, and one of them posted and said, this one has kept me up all night. I was like, I am ready, willing, and able. Anytime I need to come over, I will come overnight. Like
don't send out that bad signal. You'll never see.
I don't have a baby. I love babies. I won't sit there and just hold. Oh God.
Hey, they might they might take you up on that offer.
I will gladly. Okay. Do you know what you would like to do in the next 10 years?
Oh, that is such a loaded question, man. Like,
that's the one you flip the table and walk out on.
Yeah, it's like, do I even know what I'm doing next week? Like,
it's okay to not know.
Like, obviously I have a lot of like plans for myself and like the business and stuff like that. Like, wholesaling, like growing and like having people work with me and stuff like that. Like, I don't want for the masses to just be a me thing. I definitely want like a team of people who collectively have the same vision to work alongside with me, and that's kind of what it's not right now. It's just like a me thing, but I definitely hope to build it to be more than just me. So what that would look like, I don't know, but it's 100% going to be art, activism, and something along those lines.
I think I remember meeting with the SBA when I got out of college, because when I got out of college, I did freelance design and print brokerage for a year. And the people at the SBA were these old business people that were just like, you need to have a 5-year, a 10-year, and a 15-year plan. I was like, I don't know what that looks like. I know where I'd like to be, but I have no idea. And they're like, well, you need to write it down and work to that. It's like, or you can try. You don't have to.
Right.
God knows what'll happen a year from now that you'll be like,
Right. It's like you make plans and like God, like life laughs at you, So I can say I want to do all these things. It's whether or not like circumstances and time lines up together. If you've met me, and if you know me personally, I have goals and I have aspirations and stuff. So I'm definitely strategic in the decisions I make and the things that I put my time and energy towards, because I believe that if you are going to be a working artist, you kind of have to do that. You can't just like, make art and just like go. There has to be like a vision or a plan of what you're building over time. But it's there's intention and there's effort, and then there's just like life that will determine on whether all those things come to fruition or not.
Is there a museum or magazine where you'd like to see your work published? Or is there, here I'll ask a third because you're a muralist, or is there a building or a city where you would love to see you would love to do a mural?
Well, yes. On that one, I will like Miami, my hometown, if I got to do a mural in Waynewood, like kind of like the art district that's like blown up after I moved for college to Orlando, if I could go home and do a mural in my city, that would be great.
I am here to be an accountability buddy and be like, let's figure out how to make that happen.
Oh yeah, 100. I'm probably like 5 steps ahead of you on that, and like trying to figure that
Anything
out.
I can do to help. I'm like, I don't even know. I'm just like, no, I'm here to let's make this
like
happen.
if I could make those connections, but I think that I would have to get to like a bigger name for myself to reach that, but maybe you're not here.
There's me. It's like, who do I know that's AIGA Miami that I can make this connection?
Nice.
And I was like, I think you can do it. I got faith in you to do it.
Thank
like,
you. I'm driven for sure. But I think the most important thing is that I'm growing out of that phase of like doubting myself. Slowly but surely, because it's easier to be negative than it is to be positive. Thinking highly and speaking highly of yourself definitely takes work, especially if your mental doesn't match what is coming out of your mouth. So working on my mental health is like extremely important for me in order to be able to do the work that I want to do, especially when I'm talking very heavily about mental health and mental wellness. I feel like, not that I have to be a poster child of that, of like, some of the things that I illustrate or I write about, but it's important to not like make it seem like, oh, this is just so easy. Like, just like manifest it, just like believe it. And like, it's just, as long as you manifest it, like it'll come to, like, no, there's like, yes, you can think it, but there definitely has to be a lot of effort that goes alongside that manifestation, and work. You can't just like, oh, I'm going to be rich and I just think I'm going to be rich and then like you're going to be rich, So I believe in manifestation, but manifestation alongside with like hard work and effort and like intentionality. Okay.
Here's the big last question.
Okay.
I don't have any tissues. I got a handkerchief.
Yikes. It's
this may be. If you could talk to the 14-year-old version of yourself, what would you tell them?
I would tell her that her voice matters, her opinion matters, her point of view matters, and that she doesn't have to shrink herself and shrink her light in order to make other people comfortable. I think that as I've been getting older, like I'm definitely a people pleaser, but it came to a point where that people pleasing was no longer pleasing me. Like, cause you please somebody and then you have to carry the weight of like that thing with you. And like it digs at you. And, I got tired of carrying other people's weight, and I'm a very blunt person. I'm here to champion that. I'm very straightforward. So you don't really get a lot of bullshit from me. What I say is what I say and like how I feel. But it took a lot of like courage and a lot of time to like get to that point of being like confident enough to stand on my own beliefs and also like have the knowledge to go like to defend my beliefs as well. So yeah, I would tell her that her viewpoint matters and that she shouldn't have to shrink herself to make other people comfortable.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a great moment to end on. So thank you so much for being on.
Thanks for having me.
Sorry I talked about myself for so damn much. As long as it made you laugh, that's all I care about.
It was great hearing about you and seeing what drives you, honestly. Like, because it sounds like your upbringing and being raised in the East Side and going to Fulton and staying in Knoxville and seeing how your your backyard is like growing and evolving and still wanting to be like a part of like making that change happen in like a positive way that impacts the greater amount of
You're
people.
unlocking another thing on somebody telling me they wanted to leave because they didn't like it here. I was like, you have to be here to make the change. I gave this lecture to my little sister when she started fussing about fussing about stuff. I said, you have 3 options. You can leave, you can stay and change, or you can shut up.
Yeah.
Complaining about it does
absolutely
nothing. I was like, so you need to either
Leave?
make the change, or shut up.
Yeah. And that applies to everything though. Like really, if you're not going to be part of the solution and all you're going to do is like bitch and moan about things, then either stop bitching and moaning or get your hands and feet dirty and work and be part of like the solution. But the interesting part is like when you're trying to be part of the solution for something, you also kind of have to be comfortable with possibly not seeing the change happen within your lifetime.
Right.
Like, oh, the work that I'm doing is like to help further the next generation, like the people that are going to come after me. Like, so no work that you're doing towards change is ever like a waste of time.
Yeah. And I do get the irony of me being a white dude with a podcast saying everybody else should just remove their ego. Like, I get that. But also that's part of the reason why I do this is because I know interesting people that would never think to tell their story unless I drug them kicking and screaming to, hey, dumbass, you matter. Let's come tell your story.
Your voice matters.
I'll just sit here and be the foil the entire time, being an idiot, and being a jackass and tell my dumb stories. Like, it's like, but yeah, there's so many people I've interviewed that I feel very lucky that I've gotten to talk to them.
Nice.
Including you. Look at that button. It's like I'm a professional. I am not a professional. Thank you again for
Thank you so much.